Mission sequence start. 3, 2, 1.
Houston, we have a problem.
Liftoff. We have a liftoff.
We copy you on the ground. You got a bunch of guys about to turn blue.
What you're seeing here is a mirage.
What's going on, everyone? It's Jaron from Jeranism back with yet another live stream, live video for you. It is Friday, August the 21st, and that means it's time for another Jeranism Friday Lounge. If you can believe it, we're up to number 40. Number 40 today. We called it More Solutions. If you watched last week, we went through some solution ideas. We talked about Earth ships and some other topics like that, and I had mentioned that maybe I could get on Research Royal Rife, who, if you remember, he's done a couple Flat Earth documentaries, was on my channel to do an FAQ, a Flat Earth FAQ about his document that he wrote. And today he's going to be joining us to talk about some solution ideas. So it's going to be a fun show. We also have some other very quality panel members as normal, starting out with Bob from Globebusters. Bob, everyone's getting very excited about this coming Sunday, the 23rd. It's going to be probably the biggest day in history. No?
Well, I don't know if it's going to be the biggest day in history, but I am kind of looking forward to it myself. It has been several weeks since we have been live, and of course, that was largely in part due to the fact that we had a stupid strike, both on Globebusters and Globebusters 2, and the Globebusters 2 strike will be expiring in a few days, but the Globebusters strike has already expired, so that's a good thing. And yeah, it's going to be all kinds of interesting things that you're... Now, we're going to start out a little bit slow because of the fact that I am still operating off of my laptop. We finally did get a house, but we don't actually close on it till the end of the month. And then I've got my gigabit service line and all that stuff. And then I'll be able to get back to my master main system, and life will be good again. But in the meantime, we will make do.
All right. Well, you sound a little choppy, so we can definitely attest to that. So, but it's exciting. I think I just read Conspiracy Music Guru's comment too, which I thought was funny because I was thinking the same thing. One of the best ideas Bob has ever had for many of us, and I know a lot of you, is Bob is so tired of hearing about the corona, the COVID-19, this deadly disease sweeping across the plain, that he says when Globebusters comes back, we're not going to talk about it at all. So I was thinking of a little game where I was going to see, can we go the entire show without it not being mentioned at all? And then I saw Conspiracy Music Guru put in there, we need to have a swear box, and it's a $15 fine for any panel member on Sunday who mentions the coronavirus. So I think we could do that, and I bet you the total gets up to 0. We're all that tired of talking about it. It'll actually work quite well. So that's coming up Sunday, noon Pacific. So Bob, have you decided yet? Are we doing just D-Live, or are we gonna? Do we need to talk about that off? Is that where we're going with that?
Yeah, I think what I want to do is just do it on D-Live and then repost afterwards.
Okay.
For multiple reasons, I can talk to you about that afterwards. But sure. Yeah, I think that's probably going to be our best way to do it.
Okay, so dlive.tv/globebusters-fe, or it'll be on mine as well. So dlive.tv/Jeranism. Either place, you will be able to find the show. And then, like you said, after it's done, we'll download it and upload it to YouTube on the Globebuster channel, so you'll be able to find it. We also have joining us the great Iru Landucci. Iru, I forgot to tell you, I got a copyright strike myself. Not copyright, I'm sorry. A community guidelines for the same thing that you did, impersonation. Right? Is it?
Wow.
Yeah, it's so stupid.
Well, yes, but that thing it's for talking about the yellow liquid. So unfortunately, we cannot do anymore.
Mine was talking about Joe Biden. So you're not allowed to show Joe Biden creep on little children at Senate hearings and Senate photo ops. You're not allowed to do that and it's called impersonation, as if, I don't know, why would they call it that? It's the dumbest name of something. I'm not impersonating him.
You believe that strike, hello everyone, first of all.
Oh, okay.
But you believe that was for the Joe Biden photograph or for the yellow liquid?
Mine? No,
your opinion?
No, I know. They gave me a community guideline strike for a video I did a year and a half ago called "Watching Joe Biden at Senate."
Okay.
Yeah, but they called it impersonation, which is what you got too, which makes no sense when you look at the details.
Yes, but Yes, but the strange thing is that when I received the community guideline strike talking about the yellow liquid, I received the same type of penalty, which is something that doesn't have any sense at all.
None at all.
But they put that tag on whatever they want.
Yeah, I guess so. That's just their get out of jail free card or something, or go to jail because we say so card. Yeah, so nonsense. So welcome to the show, Iru, and hopefully, so you are no longer in the land of the upside down, correct?
No, right now I turn up myself. I'm more near the center, the pole, the North Pole. I'm in Switzerland in my girlfriend's house.
Nice.
So I am, I changed my weather too from cold to hot. So I'm start breaking a little bit my skin.
And you're
but no, we have a great day. 34 degrees in Celsius. I cannot transfer into Fahrenheit, but it's a lot of.
I can't even go outside right now. I'll show you why with this little image here, if you can see. As you know, California got, whether you want to call it directed energy weapons or whether you want to call it just lightning strikes is what the news is reporting. But there was tons of lightning starting basically Saturday night, the 15th. We were staying in Monterey, and all night was crazy thunder and lightning. The craziest thing about it, it was so hot the day before, and there's no rain. No rain fell. But all these fires started throughout California. But I live in this city right here, right in the
center,
surrounded by fire. And so you can't even, if you go outside right now, it's just completely smoky, very unhealthy. So, yeah, it kind of sucks. My wife and I take a 2-mile walk every day. In the last 2 days, we've taken our walk in the house. And you've never felt like a bigger idiot than doing 350 laps through basically your hallway and kitchen just to so
you are training like the Corona.
Yes, it is. Now I feel now I feel like I'm, yeah, exactly. And that's when it makes sense, right? So it's like I told my wife, I was like, well, this would make sense if I actually went outside for once in my life with a mask. This is when it makes sense, is when you can't even breathe the air. And I took a picture of, I mean, it just probably doesn't do justice, but this is right outside my house looking at, this is the sun. It's so tiny. It's this tiny little dot in the sky, red, completely red dot, standing behind the clouds, but pretty crazy. All right, so we also have joining us Rodrigo Ferrari Nunez. Dr. Rodrigo, how are you?
Hello guys. How's it going? Yeah, doing good. Thank you for having me. And yeah, this thing with the impersonation, right? That it means pretending to be somebody else.
Yeah,
right?
Which I don't get. And that's even what it says in the. So I mean, again, it like brings you to challenge it, and I did. I challenged it. I don't know how far that'll go. But if I can bring up exactly what they said, I will, so you guys can see it, because it's just ridiculous. It's like, what? That's not at all what... I mean, all I was doing is sitting there, and I was actually very careful, right? I mean, already I knew that was going to be a questionable video, so I was very careful about it. I said, okay, let's just sit here and watch Joe Biden and just kind of comment quietly on it. But again, the guy's running for president, so heaven forbid somebody points out his creepy-ass tendencies. All right, we also have joining us, like I said, he's been on my channel a few times before. We call him Triple R, or Research Royal Rife. Welcome to the show. Thanks for joining us.
Hiya, how you doing?
I'm fantastic. No, we're excited to have you, and yeah, so you have some solutions in mind, but I guess, I don't know if we talked much about the Rona when you were on last time, but what's your thought, and how are things where you are compared to here in the States, I guess?
I thought we weren't supposed to mention it. No, it's kind of bad everywhere that I go. Really, the biggest problem is the businesses. The people are carrying over whatever they hear, and they're reciprocating that fear back to the people, so that the businesses behave very poorly. And it makes it so that there's not that many places that I go out, because I refuse to wear a mask. Maybe that's stubborn, but I just can't do it. I can't bring myself to do it. And I don't like seeing people walking around with masks. So,
no, and we
it
said
just,
we
it just
were.
Bums me out. It just bums me out.
We weren't going to talk about it on Sunday's Globebuster show. Today, there's no charge. You can talk about it as much as you want. Nobody will get mad at you.
Yeah, you can get away with it today. No problem.
Today you can get away with it.
And by the way,
Nice.
Jaren, is my audio any better right now?
Yeah, sounds good.
Okay, because
Everybody is.
Whoops, I'm sorry. I said somebody in the chat said that ear was a little crackly too. So I didn't know if that was on your end or I shut down some things here to minimize bandwidth. Hopefully I'm better.
Sometimes, I don't know. Let me just stop sharing my screen. That could be the issue. I mean, I'm also DLive and YouTube streaming, so sometimes also sharing my screen. Could be a problem. You don't need it on for right now. So I'll turn it off and see if that helps at all. But you sound better. I don't hear any
Okay,
crackling
well, that's
coming
good to
from
hear. Excellent. And I am thrilled that Research Royal Rife is with us today, especially, you know, I came across his stuff years ago when he first put out those couple of videos, and, you know, I hadn't seen much from him. But obviously, the one thing that we definitely have in common is we're big Rife machine fans. You know, I've got a Rife machine, swear by it. I've been using one for a long, long time. And, of course, he named his channel after it. So there you have it.
Yeah. Talk a little bit about
it's criminal that people don't know who Royal Rife is. He was like the Tesla of medicine.
Indeed.
It was incredible what he used to do. He's not like some garage mechanic or somebody who was just experimenting and stuff. He was a genius, and he was well respected among other colleges, and he had a lot of peers, and his stuff was getting pretty popular, and he was curing practically everything. And then it was as if he was just eliminated from history. So, and now when you look at some of the stuff with Corona, it's actually kind of topical. Well, of course, for the health reasons, but also because of frequencies in general, because people are now questioning whether or not things like 5G or other frequencies can be used to, you know, affect a human being and hurt their health, as opposed to what Rife would do with frequencies, which was cure things. So it's topical.
Yeah, very definitely. I mean, you know, frequencies can be used both deleteriously and to heal, as can most things. But I think Royal Rife's work on that was definitely on the good guy side, and of course that's why he was kind of drummed out of medicine, which really sucks. But you know, that's kind of the world we live in today, right?
But the machine's still around, right? You can get it, and you need to learn how to calibrate it. Is that correct, or how do you operate it?
You can get it, but it's just called a signal generator now, because if they call it anything else or infer that it cures anything, the company selling it will be shut down and prosecuted, essentially. But yeah, they're sold as signal generators, and then they come with the booklet, which gives you multiple frequencies to program it with, you know, in whatever condition that you want to treat. And it's amazing how well it really works. It's you know, like I said, I absolutely swear by it, and a lot of people do.
Well, what's so nice about it is it's meant to be precise. So when you have it's funny that they actually go after people who produce frequency generators, because you know, the radiation therapy that they use for cancer patients is a frequency. So how come they're allowed to use frequencies and then say that it can cure things, which it can't? I mean, well, it doesn't. I don't even know. Radiation is just buying people time. Usually it's very rare that somebody will fully recover from cancer with radiation, but it's also because they add chemo for no reason. And then, yeah, so Rife had almost a 100% cure rate in his clinical trials, and it was because he found the resonant frequency or the harmonic frequency for cells. In the same way, when an opera singer sings, it causes glass to vibrate and then break if she hits like the perfect pitch. So it's really just a very precise technology, and he would spend day and night looking through the microscope because he was so devoted and so dedicated. He spent over something like 20 years researching different frequencies that could cause different bacteria to resonate and then burst. So they're harmonic frequencies. And it's a very methodical science. It's not pseudoscience, you know, and it's well studied. The only issue is that nowadays people aren't able to really replicate a certain part of his research process, which was his advancements in microscopy. So he had microscopes that were so amazing that they would fill up like the whole table, he had a very special technique called heterodyning, where he would filter light through crystals so that he could analyze bacteria in vivo, which is really, really hard to do because most of the time they just analyze bacteria when it's separated from the body. So they'd take it, they'd put it in a dish and look at it, and they'd illuminate it from the bottom. And actually, it's also really hard to get a high magnification on bacteria without killing it. So Rife had this ability to not kill it because he was isolating very special frequencies. And he also noticed that certain things could only be seen under certain frequencies. So he would irradiate things and then he'd be able to see them. So what he did was nothing short of miraculous and brilliant. And it's really, I think the issue is that people can sell frequency generators, but they don't always quite know exactly how he did it. So they can.
How do you see these on the? You said that you could see them in the body alive through an apparatus that he created with crystals.
Allegedly, he could see them on your skin. He could see like very small bacteria, and he was able to see them in a live situation.
Right.
So
and basically, the way that it worked, Rodrigo, is the technique he used, as Triple R was mentioning, is the heterodyning technique. And essentially what would happen is he would use these crystals to cause a frequency heterodyne. And what a heterodyne is when you input a primary frequency or a secondary frequency to a primary frequency, you will get a resultant frequency, both above and below, right? And these are the harmonic bands of it. And essentially what happened then is that optically it would bring the organisms that he was trying to view down into the visual spectrum, the visual light spectrum, so that he could actually see it. Absolutely brilliant technique.
Yeah, he's amazing.
And radios,
So-
if you clarify that, radios also operate in crystals, right? This is people and that might be related to this, right?
Yeah. I mean, I know Rife would use certain crystals to isolate light frequencies, but I don't quite know how they do it with radio, to be honest.
Okay.
Yeah. So, but suffice it to say, he was given a dinner called The End of All Disease or something like that. And of course, when the medical industry and the Rockefellers and all these people caught wind of this, well, they certainly couldn't let their precious pharmaceutical industry go down the tubes or anything like that. So they essentially made him out to be a complete quack and ruined him, much like what they did with Nikola Tesla. And, that's what these clowns do. They're just, they're really traitors to humanity.
That's all they can do. Yeah.
Well, actually, interestingly, I think it was the head of the AMA at the time. So his name's Lawrence Fishbein or something
Fishbein,
like that.
that's right. Yep, that's
Yeah.
right.
And so what he did is, I think it was Hoyland who was his colleague, and I want to say it was Fishbein as well, that there was a court case against with Rife, and I know they were trying to steal his technology. And also I think he won the court case, and I don't know if it was about him not having a medical license or something, but I know that one of his friends got thrown out of a window, like one of his colleagues, and then a lot of his other colleagues just didn't want to have anything to do with it, so they just stopped talking to him, and it just stressed him out. And I don't know if that's when they burned down his lab. A lot of his stuff survived, but the point was that they were really screwing with him. And by the time I think he got to court, they said he was just like drunk and unable to put a sentence together because he was like really nervous or something. I could be getting the story like a little off, but I think it's something along these lines. So he was just a wreck, and then eventually he just fled to Mexico and just kind of disappeared from the scene. Yeah. However, the thing is the frequency generators, modern ones, do work actually. I've used it, and it's useful. If you have like a cold or they have thousands of different frequencies that they use for almost any condition you can imagine. However, it's really important to point out that Royal Rife himself probably only analyzed maybe 50 different, maybe 100, I don't know, maybe 100 different types of bacteria. So there was only
so there's no continuity to his work with those students?
Huh?
Say that again, Rodrigo?
There was no continuity to his work, no students taking it up, or that's what happened when.
There's some, but the issue is that they can't easily replicate his microscopes and the techniques that he used.
Yeah, which is something that stands today as an accomplishment absolutely unmatched by modern technology in microscopy is absolutely incredible. The optics that this man put together.
Is there a patent for this? Is there a way to see some of this?
There is I think they have one of his microscopes with the Smithsonian, and they did a report on it, so it's been validated for sure. I don't know if there's still microscopes around. I think I saw one on eBay once, and it sold for like hundreds of thousands of dollars. Probably the government, the military bought it. They're like, oh, whoa, what's that doing here? They bought it. But yeah, I think the thing is that there are modern researchers who do work with frequencies, and they've proven it. In fact, there was a TED Talk with some guy who was like kind of almost like pawning the technology off as innovative or his own. And every single comment on the TED Talk is like, you forgot to mention Royal Rife, like the guy where you got the idea from. And he's showing like them killing cells with frequencies. He's like, look, see, it only hurts this specific cell. And yeah, so it's people do it. They replicate the research because it's not that hard. Essentially, once you do isolate the frequency, it will only kill what it is that you're trying to, kill. But also, I should argue that it can also stimulate. So they can use them as healing frequencies to stimulate things like, your lymphatic system or your immune system or whatever without actually hurting anything. So there's a lot that you can do with harmonic frequencies.
Which is scary because if you put that in the wrong hands, which we probably think that it has been done.
Right, it's been there.
Right. I mean, with the amount of things they can send out, and then again, you would say, well, they can't hurt people because they're too far away, but then all of a sudden you hear 5G and they're putting these things every 50 feet, and all of a sudden you start imagining some craziness that could be going on in the non-visible spectrum. You never know.
Right.
Pretty scary.
Also, it's worth pointing out that when you have something like 5G, people are always arguing, oh, it's not strong enough, it doesn't pierce the skin, or it doesn't do this or that or whatever. I don't even know if that's true. But it's actually not so much about the signal strength when you're using harmonic frequencies, because if you use a harmonic frequency, it's causing very specific things to resonate, Right. So I don't know that it matters if it's able to pierce the skin or not. I could be wrong, but I would think that there's a lot of very insidious and sneaky ways that you can use frequencies against people without them knowing.
Absolutely.
Yeah, for sure. Bob, we got a super chat from F. Eugene Griffin. He said, Bob, did you leave Colorado because of the December 21st eclipse? I live in Springs, and I'm not sure this is a safe place or any city. If so, why did you choose the Carolinas? Thank you.
Okay, well, I chose the Carolinas, A, because it's beautiful here, B, because the population is a lot less, C, the cost of living is way, way lower. And we also have a lot of friends out here, a lot of flat earthers out here. There were actually a multitude of reasons why we chose this, but the primary reason why we left Denver is not anything to do with any eclipse or anything like that, because that's going to affect a lot of areas. But it was just simply the congestion. 5G was starting to roll in, and they're actually starting to build those towers down my street. So I'm just looking at that going, this isn't good. And of course, they can weaponize those things by simply turning the power up on them. And, that's a subject for another day or another discussion. But there were just several reasons that I got out of Colorado. And I mean, I was born there. I grew up there. It broke my heart to leave it. But everything in my fiber was telling me this is not the place you want to be. And in fact, no city is. So there you have it.
Right. That's the answer. So that's what we're going to talk about today is some of those solutions. So hopefully we can get into that shortly. I will show just a couple things, I guess, and ask some opinions. But I don't know if you guys saw on yesterday's show, David Weiss, myself, and Alex had a good laugh at this story. It's just so funny. From the Mere Man post, mind-blowing TikTok from highest point in Canada to disprove the flat earth theory. So you're thinking, okay, this guy's going to show some sort of video from some sort of high peak where there's some, and this is the picture they're talking about. So, and then even goes on to, it's so dumb. And I mean, the article, the article actually says, and there's no kidding here, that it's ridiculous. It says, "This is my test to show you that the Earth is truly round." And let me see where it says exactly here. Somewhere in this article, it says this is proof that the Earth has a spherical shape. This video, which is just, I can't even believe it. Yeah, so
God, you have to wonder how many retards bought that too. I mean, it's scary, the stupidity level of people.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
And they call us dumb.
Yeah, here it is right here. After extending the pole, Mr. Harrison's camera filmed mind-blowing footage of the Earth showing its spherical formation. And it's like not even a joke. This is their proof that the Earth. Oh man.
Come on.
Yeah. So no kidding.
That cannot be true.
No.
Iru, that's the truth. They really think.
I refuse to believe.
Believe it. I'm telling you, believe it.
You cannot be so dumb.
Oh boy, so stupid. I don't even know. Is that Mir?
Oh my God.
Is that Mir website? Are they a joke? Because everything I read on that
It's a
site.
top-
They must
Yeah,
be. They have
yes,
a section dedicated to
yes.
coronavirus.
Oh God, yeah. Look, coronavirus section.
Look.
This one here: car-sized asteroid narrowly misses Earth, and NASA admits it didn't see it coming.
No, this is a joke website.
Yeah, they've got to be like the Onion.
Yes,
no, it's
or
not.
USA
It's not.
Today,
it's a real.
USA Today
No,
is
no,
another one.
it's not. It's like
It's
a
not.
Weekly World
UK
News.
It's real.
It's a mainstream UK thing.
Yeah. It's
No,
That's
no,
scary.
no. The actual web page is an actual web page dedicated to making jokes, like USA Today, for example, which is an Spanish website that, all the time making jokes. For example, one of the last one was like, unfortunately, everybody's gonna die, and make a report with actual reporters making like everybody is sad because they came aware they're gonna die, things like that. I believe this type of website is that kind of
I think you'd be
joking website.
I think you'd be sad to realize it's actually a real website. But you can look into it. The mir.co.uk. I think it is supposed to be real.
It's for real, man.
It's
a real
but they tell you all these
newspaper,
great
kinda like
things.
New York Times.
NASA.
Oh no,
Yeah, NASA.
I refuse to believe that.
No,
I don't analyze this website.
Believe
It's
it.
impossible.
No, it's I mean, they just talk about the greatest. This one here, asteroid impact created water on Mars. I mean, they could just say whatever, and people just eat it right up. So, yeah, believe that if you want, or not. I don't know if you guys saw. Where did I see it today? That Australia is talking about now with the vaccinations coming. No jab, no job. So if you don't get, or no jab, no.
Nice slogan.
Yeah,
Nice slogan though.
it's the worst slogan I've ever heard. Yeah, if you don't get any government benefits, if you don't get the
Blackmailing
vaccination.
essentially with terror. Essentially,
Oh,
this
yeah.
is kind of terrorism. What's
It's
going
a
on?
Bible prophecy coming right down the pike. Exactly what it says in Revelations 13, right?
And
Yeah.
talking about that, I sent an article showing that the guys from the Qantas flight company, if you can open, is amazing because the guys use like a cover for the turbo engines.
I showed it
with the-
yesterday.
with the flip. You showed it yesterday. I didn't see.
No, but I'll bring it up
the-
again
I think
because
you-
I was on the flight.
I think you're broadcasting from the quantum frequency as well, because we're getting like a double voice.
I don't know what's going on. I don't know if
Me
one of
too.
my
Me too.
websites is open
There's
too
some
much.
reverb, and it may be the cause of that kind of laggy thing. I don't know if you're getting it, Jaron.
Yeah, I am hearing it a little bit. I think maybe I have too many windows open. I'll close some in a second, so we'll go through some of these articles. But let me open what Iru just sent real quick.
Is anybody's speaker too loud, perhaps? Because then that could be causing.
No,
the
it sounds
reverb.
like I think it's actually this website here. Let me close this one. You know those websites that constantly have video playing, and I don't know. I hate websites like that. It's just nonsense. Okay, so this is the video that we're watching. Oh yeah, this is what Ira's talking about.
No, not the video.
Yeah.
Open that image. That
Gotcha.
one.
We have it. Yeah, so people can see this is a Qantas airplane, and look at the
Yeah,
covers.
open.
See, the covers are the square and compass and the pyramid with the eye. What do you think, Iru?
And the excuse is like they have very creativity people working on the graphics.
Oh boy.
Very creative.
Yeah, that
Very
is
creative.
the excuse, man.
And what is this article talking about? On Reddit, some suggested the images were photoshopped, while others assumed it was Qantas having a laugh. No, I mean,
No,
again,
it was Quantin. Yeah.
so they are real. Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
completely real. The article is just talking about the rupture or the bank break. How you call when the company gets completely
Bankrupt.
bankrupt? Yes.
Yeah.
The company was like $2 billion down, and I don't know, 20,000 jobs lose, and a lot of things. They are talking just that and about the business itself. And of course, the plane was, bring to other place to stop there while it's not working. So they cover the motors, and they use that type of symbology. And very curious.
So yeah, the other things that we've seen this week. So this one, defeat COVID-19 by requiring vaccination for all. It's not un-American, it's patriotic. So it is patriotic if you allow them to inject, latex rubber, mercury, formaldehyde,
Remember
aluminum.
that playbook, right, that we were looking at?
Right.
That had the research from Yale?
Right.
That they were testing the subjects with the messages. There was
Right.
like a shaming message. You're a stupid message. You don't trust science.
You're not brave.
You're going to kill people.
We didn't see the one that said patriotic, though, but it's probably right in there with it, right?
Similar. It's
So-
like you don't care for your community kind of thing.
Right, exactly. And
Some
while
of
the
most
measures
twisted
that will
thing
be
I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah, and while the measures that will be necessary to defeat the coronavirus will seem draconian, even anti-American to some, we believe that there is no alternative. Simply put, getting vaccinated is going to be our patriotic duty. So I will include all these links in the description if you want to go through any of them. This one here, doctors demand government punishment for Americans who refuse the COVID vaccine. A group of doctors has demanded that the government put together a plan to punish people who refuse to take a COVID-19 vaccine with tax penalties, a denial of many government services, as well as encouraging private companies to deny employment to anyone who rejects the vaccination.
What?
So there's a lot of people out there saying that they could never force it on you, and I do agree with that statement that they cannot come into your house and jab you. That would be an assault. But they can do these kind of things, which are to shame you,
Well,
to not
good.
allow
I don't
you.
think
Who
they
wants-
can.
Who wants to work for the government?
Right.
That's
Well, they're
they're doing
saying.
you a favor. They're denying you a government position
Well, they're
and a
saying
government
even.
job.
They're saying even they want
Other
private
companies.
companies to deny employment. So
I pay them to deny you to
Yeah.
they
So
give them
basically, they
bonuses.
can just tell Walmart so simply. Walmart, you can't employ people. Not that you, and I agree with you, Triple R on this too. Who wants to work for Walmart? But they can just.
Well,
go
and
to
they
these-
did it brilliantly too, Jaron. I mean, because essentially what they've done is now that they've killed all the small businesses that are out there.
Right.
They've eliminated the diversity of employment.
Right.
Those who probably would not comply, and now all the big rig companies that are left over. Now, if you want a job,
Right.
they're going to implement that rule. So it's
stay
just
along,
disgusting.
Right. So all these small businesses are gone. All these small restaurants are gone. So, what's the ones that are left? Well, Chili's or something like that. And then, you can easily make it. So if you want to be a server or anything at Chili's that you need to have your vaccine paperwork, then the next question will be, well, how do we know who's got, how do we keep track of that? And then they'll say, well, we need some sort of vaccine or a COVID pass, right? And then there'll be these paper passes that will come out, and then they'll start getting basically counterfeited. People will make their own and stuff like that. And then when they say, well, what do we do next? Well, thank goodness for HR 666. Thank you, Bill Gates. We can actually put embeddable ink tattoos and inject those into people, and then they can be easily scanned from your iPhone, and it'll tell you right on there, and you can't counterfeit that. So that's probably coming. Go ahead.
So yeah, I was wondering, are all those tabs that you have there, is that stuff that you were planning on reviewing for this show? Or because if we probably should get to talking to what people can do about it,
Absolutely. I totally agree. I don't think so. This one was good. This one here. Did somebody send this earlier this week? But I always include all these links. All these links will be in the description. So if people want to read up on this stuff, this is a great article. Read the fine print. Vaccine package inserts reveal hundreds of medical conditions linked to vaccines. It's a good article. So check that out if you want to. What else did we have here? That one's not important. This was a pretty good research article on face masks by a PhD scientist. So if people, again, I like to give that link just because I always get the same people saying, well, where's the PhD scientist telling us that masks are bad for us? You know, it's just you guys. So this is a good article if you want to read that, somebody putting that out. The other thing I thought was crazy, just because I used to be a store manager of a pharmacy, and believe me, I know who these pharmacists are, and they are not people you want in charge of injecting your children with vaccines. But the United States just passed a law that says pharmacists in all 50 states are now have the ability to give children shots beyond just a flu shot or anything like that. So I'll include that link as well. And yeah, I guess there's pretty much nothing else. I saw, if you want to talk about something funny, was this, the governor of what? No, not that one. Did you guys hear? Louisiana has banned dancing. Probably the funniest thing I've ever seen.
Oh, I saw that.
Yeah, so you're not allowed to dance in Louisiana anymore, which is great. These things, Dr. Sherry Tenpenny reported that some restaurants are starting their servers having to wear these dog cones. I swear.
Dog cone, man.
Yeah, you think it's a joke,
so
and then you're like,
degrading.
nope, that's real. You even follow it along and find out that that is real. So I'll include that link. But I think
Is it
have to wear-
Coca-Cola style? It's like a dog cone, man. You know, when your dog gets sick, so it doesn't eat its wound and stuff. That's what it looks like.
yeah, no, that's what it looks like. It looks like a dog cone. And this one's
That's
Sweden's.
humiliating.
Oh, it's
Yeah,
ridiculous.
it's so degrading.
And it was the governor of Maine. Sorry, the governor of Maine
There it
has
is.
ordered restaurant staff to wear anti-COVID visors upside down so they resemble dog cones in order to direct breath upwards.
Oh my God.
Again, you think that these sites
Oh
are
my
jokes,
gosh.
and they are not. So I have all those.
This
links.
is literally what the Onion.
I know.
This is what
it's
something
what it
like the
feels
Onion
like.
would
Yeah.
make as
It's
phony
true.
news. And last year you would have said, "Oh, that'll probably never happen."
Right, and then
And
look
now
what we
it's
have
like
now.
every day is something new and ridiculous.
Yeah, so that's pretty much all the little tabs I had, but I do want the show to go into the direction of more solutions. So
I have one question on
Sure.
the microscope. Just if it's fair to characterize it as some sort of holographic microscopy at all, or not?
No, well, it's more just about the techniques that he would use to illuminate things.
Mhm.
So he would use different irradiation techniques, or like
The
we
microscope
mentioned,
itself was focusing with these crystals, with this resonance frequency, and that would bring up. He found out, he discovered that can bring these things, depending on the frequency, bring different kinds of bacteria into view. Is that correct or no?
Correct. Yeah, and then in fact, even back then, I think they probably used the word like virus and bacteria almost interchangeably.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because they said, well, they could bring in really small living
Microorganisms.
and what is
Yeah.
really heterodyne
Yeah.
just means multiple signals, multiple
Heterodyning
frequencies?
is just mixing of frequencies, and you get resultant frequencies. In other words, you put 100 hertz and 200 hertz together, and you get a additive frequency and then also a differential frequency. So that's what heterodyning means. It's just meaning mixing two frequencies or more
Gotcha.
together to come up with a new resultant frequency.
Yeah, I discovered something like that doing recording of vocals. When you do several vocals over and over, singing, and you tune them, sometimes you get, and I don't know how that happened, you get an extra voice that it just, you never sing that voice, but it pops out. It's like some sort of octave. It seems to be coming together from what you're talking about, something similar, phenomenon similar to that, the harmonics of the voice. Because it's not just a simple note, it has all these harmonics with it. When you add your own voice, you get this extra voice. It's like a ghost voice. It's really weird. But yeah.
Hiro, can
I
you,
don't know. Yeah, I send a picture.
can you share
sorry,
your
a
screen?
link with holography type of viewing cells and
Can you
things inside the cells, for example.
Can you share your screen here?
Could be similar.
Rather than me opening, because I'm having some issues with my bandwidth. I can
Okay,
actually see
I
my-
only have only one monitor, so
Okay.
maybe this is I was well, I hear myself. Let me just stop the share screen and reshare without audio.
Okay.
Maybe it's gonna be getting better. So right now it's okay.
Yeah, we can see it.
Okay, no, maybe because I remember, like 1 month ago, I was working, helping the guy who create the yellow substance, the yellow
Yes.
liquid, and I was working on animation, showing the how it works inside the body when you drink it, and he sent me at the end of the animation, we need to recreate something like this, and you mentioned the holographics techniques, and I don't know if this is something related with that, but maybe for showing to the people, to
Definitely
the
is.
audience.
Mhm.
Yes, here you can see, for example,
Wow.
this is actually cells.
Wow.
I don't know if I, and the tiny
close.
dots, yeah, tiny dots. These white dots, this white spot in the middle is like the energy producing by the cells itself.
Oh.
So it's very, it's a very hypnotic thing to view. I don't know if this is the type of things that you are talking about, but this is another one. For example, how it's connected one with each other and send it message via electricity. And this is the full article. You can read it. You can read about how this technique works and how can you see, things with what we call viruses, things like that, working inside the cells. I don't know. I'm
Wow,
repeat.
this
I don't know if
is
it's the
incredible.
same technique, but here is a full article of the
Is
company.
that an actual this thing on the left? Is this from the actual microscope? What's
Yeah. This is real
Whoa, this
real
is
time
incredible.
images, video. Of course, it's not. I don't believe. I didn't read it completely. This is isolated plot. Cells. This is not something like you put inside of a human while.
And
he's,
there you see it. Yeah, it's obviously static, right? Something has to be.
Yes.
It's
Exactly.
very difficult to do that just to keep the thing static.
Yes, they take it out from your bloodstream. They put under this type of microscope with this technique, and they can do these things. But I believe it's something related what you are talking about. So maybe just for illustrate about this.
Wow, this is
But
incredible.
this is actual cells working, with producing energy and that kind of stuff. Yeah. This is the
Hey,
US
so I
patent.
have I actually have a video of Royal Rife's lab. So if you want, I can screen share and I can show you. So because seeing is really just believing, And I think if you see, like, he blows up cells with frequencies. There's a guy, I think it was Crane, who covered it. Should I share my screen or no?
Yeah.
What was the one other link that you sent right before that? Do you want to share that
No,
one?
the other link is just Bill Gates. It's an full interview of Bill Gates talking with the guys in the magazine The Economist, which is something like an oracle nowadays,
Right.
saying that the pandemic thing is going to finish 2021, and a million of people is gonna die, during this pandemic thing, and blah blah blah. I just pasted on the chat because maybe in some point of the show we can talk about it if it's related. But
Okay.
It's called
Yeah,
Corona
and
News thing. Yeah.
Triple R, when you share your screen, make sure you share it with audio if it's got sound with it.
Oh, I can do that? I didn't know I could do that.
You betcha.
Yeah, just click share
Okay,
screen.
I see share computer sound.
Yes.
Cool. All right. So you can see my screen now?
Yeah, I did see somebody's screen. I guess that's
Yep,
yours. Yep.
that's you. Good.
It is? Okay. So you see this lab here? Well, this is
Yep.
not really the lab yet, but okay. So I'm gonna play this. How fast is the frame rate, or is it?
It's good. We can see it.
Like-
The importance of this picture is to find the quickness and the effectiveness of the right frequency instrument. It's only split seconds.
See, you see
The
how?
organism is paralyzed and starts disintegrating.
You know, notice how around felt.
That's amazing.
I think he does another here. That's the term. Here you go. See?
Well, it's the same thing that these guys want to make us with the 5G,
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
but in this small scale.
Frequency,
Jaron, were
So-
you sharing that?
immediately
Yep.
paralyzed.
Should be on the
It
screen.
starts disintegrating from
There you
within.
go.
Okay, so they're saying they're not seeing it. So I don't know. Let's see.
Now, the
Well, you're
frequencies
seeing it,
have to
right,
be
Jared?
Yeah, it might be behind a few
Yeah, we see
seconds.
it.
particular organism. The other ones are just swimming around and
Can you hear the
acting like
audio?
nothing's happening.
Yeah.
But to that particular organism, it just disintegrates it completely. And I don't think it's going to get up and walk away, I guarantee you.
So if I raise my volume, does that change the volume of the audio
Very
being sent
precise.
through Skype?
No.
Or-
Exactly.
Yeah. So like lower the volume to like halfway. If you can.
We will now be shooting same organisms, but with a negative color to find the effects. Again, instantaneously the organism is paralyzed. And then again, just disintegrates.
Here, let me, he gets the smaller.
And this particular organism disintegrated from both the top and the bottom half. If you see the one at the bottom, it's completely disrupted. Whereas the one at the top is blew up on both ends.
Here, and he gets the smaller ones too, but also I want to show you, if you can look here, Crane goes over Rife's microscope. See this microscope here?
This was one of 5 instruments that Rife designed and built with the help of his colleagues. This is a 1,000,000-volt X-ray. This is a stop-motion photomicrograph machine that was used to make delayed versions of the growing of flowers or the growing of viruses, the growing of plants, the growing of worms, which are all recorded. This is a Ascania research camera, 35 millimeter, that Rife used in his work. This is a number 2 microscope. A virus microscope was a prismatic instrument. And this is a number 3, a universal microscope, prismatic type, that embodied all fields of microscopy, including dark field, polarized light, infrared light, ultraviolet light, and monochromatic beam light.
So yeah, this video, it's so good. I would recommend your listeners just to really just watch the whole thing. This is 45 minutes of him going over Rife's lab. I think they also show Rife. And the nerve of like Wikipedia and other places to say that he was just kind of like, they dismiss him as a nobody.
Of course.
Are you kidding me?
Pseudoscience.
Like look at this microscope. It is a freaking masterpiece. It's like a,
It looks pretty intense.
I can't even fathom this thing. Like there's probably higher quality pictures.
It doesn't even look like what you expect from a microscope. Like it looks way more advanced, right?
No, it's like alien. It's like this stuff. His lab. I mean, how dare they call him or they treat him like a scammer? Well, Wikipedia doesn't say he's a scammer. They just say that people use his technologies to, make devices, to take advantage of people, which is actually probably true. There probably is companies on the internet that are not good, and they try to sell the idea of, being able to kill anything with frequencies. But in my opinion, if it's not Rife's frequencies, then there's really just no point in well, I would say I wouldn't believe in it wholeheartedly. I would only go with the frequencies that he worked on, but they have that in the books. And interesting enough is actually I think they have to sell the book with the frequencies separate from the devices, because they don't want to somehow avoiding the liability of being accused of trying to sell a cure to something or something like that. So it's really frustrating about all the different holes that they make people jump through. But yeah, this is basically a solution, and I think that's the thing. People are probably one of the obvious things that the government's trying to do is to make people afraid. So what you would want to do is not be afraid and come up with ideas of what you can do in your personal life. And I know that last time you guys talked about going off grid and earth ships and stuff like that. So I definitely have something to add to that because I run a brick making factory, and I'll show you some pictures of that here. So this is the factory that I run, and this is like a weighing batching machine right here. And this will combine the different ingredients like sand and clay, and then it goes on this conveyor. This machine right here crushes the clay and makes it into a powder, and then there's a sifter under here and a mixer, and here's a block press. So that's the block press right here, but actually I think I have a video of it. So actually that's hold on. Yeah, this is the block.
How big are the? Oh, okay, I couldn't tell until I got grabbed on how big they were.
And they're ready to go. They need to be baked or anything, or
no. This is called compressed stabilized earth blocks, or CEB, or CSEB, and this is what they look like. They are done with pure compression, and they get around from 1,000 to 2,000 psi, depending on how much cement you add. In fact, interestingly enough, I've learned from the process, there's a lot of things that you guys should know, because the funny thing is they talk about earth ships and, the tire homes, right, where they take, recycled tires and stuff like that. But what you really have to consider is anytime that you're promoting for somebody to go off grid, you have to think about all of the different things that are involved in doing it. So if you were going to make a tire home, imagine how many tires you're going to have to haul off, and where you're going to get gas stations, junkyards, because not everywhere in the world it's that easy to get a big abundance of tires. Like it is, but then you'd have to go pick them up, let's say at a shop, and they may give them to you for free. Sometimes they pay you to haul them off, but sometimes you might pay like, a buck or, a few cents per tire or something like that. And then you've got to pound them. So to pound tires, well, actually here I have a spreadsheet which I'll share with you. Hold on.
You have to pack them with dirt.
Yeah, you have to pack them with dirt, and it takes about 20 minutes to do that. So that's a lot of labor, because if you imagine you're going to have thousands of tires in your house, right? And so how many could you do in a day? So there's a lot of things worth thinking about here. So here's like my research, and this is not a complete thing, but maybe when it's complete, I'll share it with everybody. But this is basically all the different types of construction. So you have here aircrete blocks, tire homes, tire bales, earth ships, inflatable homes and structures, compressed earth blocks, which is what we'll go over, and automatic compressed earth blocks, 3D printed concrete, dirt, polystyrene, shipping containers, and so on. Just everything you could think of. And the reason I'm doing this is to demystify what it is to go off grid. Because the biggest thing that right now that people have to understand is with the economy being completely demolished, you're going to have to really think about your own survival. It's not a game anymore. People are losing their businesses, their jobs. Well, it was never a game, but now it's really serious. It's do or die, or fight or flight. And I think that people are going to probably have to eventually consider, are they going to fight, like literally fight physically, or are they going to go away? Or not even go away, but just to protect themselves and protect their family. I think that no matter what a person chooses, I think going off grid is almost de facto. It's default. They should find a way to make it so that they don't have to depend on governments for food or shelter or anything like that. So this spreadsheet also has different things. So for example, different foundation techniques, flooring, heating. And there's some really fascinating stuff in here that I think would surprise you guys. Stuff you've never seen before. So I'll go over some of it.
How do you get what do you define as going off grid necessarily? Because I mean, you can say that building a earth ship or a home with materials that are unusual or like for instance the shipping containers, right? I've seen some houses built that look great and they're built cheap and so on, but that doesn't mean that you necessarily going off grid, right? Does that involve becoming energy independent?
Yeah, so there's a few different categories of going off grid. I mean, even you could say a person who's homeless is off grid.
Right.
If you have a way to get food and sleep at night, then you could argue that you're off grid. However, if your method of getting food is depending on, digging through trash cans, then it's not particularly off grid because now you're still connected to society in some sort of way. You know what I mean? So I think that, but it depends on which aspects of your life you can get off grids. Because even if you're able to just get shelter and electricity and water, that's a major step forward. Not everybody has to produce their own crops, but even then there's techniques for that too. But yeah, I think it's just really it's about self-teaching and self-supplying. So the flat earth has something in common with going off grid, and so does anything that's just fully decentralized. If you don't believe in government to supply for you, especially not your news or information, which is where all this junk about coronavirus and these lies about illness and medical stuff in general, which is causing people to be afraid, and it's causing them to want to put masks and vaccinate their kids. And it's because people are supplying themselves with external information from an external source and not from an internal source. So in other words, they're not doing their own homework. And that's my take on it. Yeah. So here, go ahead. Yeah.
No, I was just saying that makes perfect sense. But yeah, I mean, small steps. If everyone does some of these things, we can change the overall kind of grid itself. But when people try to do even guerrilla gardening, it's something that's attacked. And gardening has been attacked in the States. Raw milk production, things like this. Whatever allows small producers to get it going, they'll come in and try to stop it until somebody does something about it. I don't know.
What's the cost of those bricks that you just showed the last picture? Triple R.
You can see them. You can see them in this photo, correct?
Yeah.
Am I still sharing my screen?
Yeah.
Yep. The ones before you had two holes on the top, but there I can see those have just been kind of broken through.
These are the same. This is just that we've cut through for horizontal support. However, so I'll tell you, this is actually a great question, Jaron, and that's kind of why I wanted to bring this up, and it's one of the reasons I wanted to be on your show. So a lot of people think that, for example, working with dirt is actually cheap. Believe it or not, these bricks actually come for my production costs slightly higher than it would if I had bought cinder block. So I would say these could run me anywhere from, let me think, 10 pesos. So maybe like 50 cents a brick. Okay, which isn't that bad. But if you imagine that cinder block, I could get it for like $1, and there's about 2.5 of these into a cinder block. Well, then yeah, maybe then it's still slightly cheaper. But these are super insulated, so this is like a super Adobe home practically. So that does make up for the difference in cost. And plus, I can dry stack these. If you look at the next picture, there's actually no mortar joint in between these, and that's because the machine produces them perfectly uniform. But there's things that
kind of like a Lego almost. And how many would you need to build a whole house?
Well, this first story, for example, it's like, I want to say it's 10 by 25 meters. So, and this first story is about 10,000 bricks. Let me see if I have another picture of the house. So this is going to be 10,000 bricks. And the rebar that you see here, this is basalt rebar, or sorry, this is fiberglass rebar. And this here in the horizontal support is called basalt rebar, but it's also actually used fiberglass. The advantage to this is that it doesn't rust. So this structure could last you for like maybe 100 years. There's Adobe structures that are hundreds of years old, and they still stand. So it's a very, very strong material. In fact, the engineer that I work with was shocked when he's like, oh my God, it's actually really strong, the wall. Well, because he was a little paranoid. I think he put more rebar than we needed to put, because we didn't need to put this much at all. But it's okay. I was cool with it because I was like, well, I ordered it anyway, because I get a lot of my stuff from China. Like I got my whole factory, for example, for about let me see if I can find the picture of this factory.
And there's you said there was no mortar in between those bricks?
Huh?
Is that what you said?
There's no mortar.
Wow.
Yeah. And that's because it produces them uniform. So if there's something you need to there's a few things you need to kind of understand about what mortar is and does. So mortar is never supposed to be stronger than the brick. And the reason for that has to do with the difference in materials. So if you use like a stronger material versus a weaker material, then what can happen, I think, is weathering and water will end up going to the weaker material. And that's why you can see, I don't know if you've ever noticed like a stone wall where the stone is, there's these like really, the mortar's almost like indented, like it's jumping out at you. I don't know if you've ever seen that, but that can happen when the mortar's stronger than the stone.
Got you. Because the stone goes, yeah, got you.
So what the mortar does is essentially used for leveling, but you could also say that it makes your wall kind of like monolithic, and of course it keeps bugs out. So you would want a stucco. If you're not using mortar, you want a stucco anyway, because you really want a tight seal to keep pests and other things out.
Right.
But so here the thing is, this is another thing that really, if people who want to start making their life better, one thing I strongly recommend is using Alibaba. Because you can get things off of Alibaba for fractions of, if you're getting things wholesale, you're getting them for like pennies on the dollar practically from what you'd get them on Amazon. For example, this whole factory here, not including this machine, but this whole factory here costed me about $12,000, which is incredible. This actual machine, the block press in America would cost me $20,000 alone, ignoring the cost of conveyor belts and the mixer and stuff like that.
And you got this delivered?
Well, that's the thing. So I had to pay another $7,000 for shipping and import. So when you consider, well, because shipping was only like a couple grand, and it does depend on the season, but import costs, I got hit with 30%. And then in addition to that, you have dock fees and other little sneaky fees that will creep up on you. So really, most of the time for importing things, you can look up to 40%. It may not seem fair, but that's just, there is really no way around that. I mean, you're getting a freight from another country. So this batching machine only came out as $2,500 from China, and it works perfectly. What this is like this is weighing the material. So I can see and program exactly how many pounds I want to go into here. And then this has like a water counter, like a liter counter, which will put a very specific amount of liters so that we don't have to worry as much about our water content. So, yeah, but at the end of the day, what I'm trying to say is there's a lot of logistics involved to doing this. Like the original block making was with this thing called Sinvaram. I don't know if you've ever seen it.
Mm-hmm. How many can you make in a day, say?
So with that factory, I could probably make up to 3,000 if we had a full staff, but we don't. So we only make like maybe 500 on a day, which isn't really that bad at all. But there's a lot of other things like cleaning the factory, maintaining machines, and stuff like that. So this is kind of what started a lot of the brick making, compressed earth brick making, because before, of course, Adobe's been around for a long time, but compressed earth blocks are a lot stronger than Adobe. So if you were going to do it yourself, I guess, then you would use something along the lines of this. This is, you could probably get one of these for like $1,000 or something, or even make one. So this is just called the Sinvaram, and I think these started in like Colombia or something, and they were making houses using basically just pure compression. And then once you finish this, then you can cure the bricks, which takes about a week. You're gonna like water them for a week, basically. And an interesting thing, so one of the things that I've learned in my journey is that, so there's a lot of things that'll up your cost that you're not thinking about. So even if I didn't have to pay for the rent for the factory and stuff like that, and I just calculated purely labor cost, I would still probably be paying. So if I say like how much cement I'm using, I would say I use 3 pesos. So maybe 20. What is that? Hold on. So maybe like 15 cents a brick, if I was to get it, if I was to figure out my cement cost. But the thing is you can actually make these bricks weaker. So that's something that people don't understand. I think that there's a fear that their house won't be strong, but you can use certain things to counterbalance that. So there's something called basalt geogrid. Yeah. So there's this stuff you can get. It's called GeoGrid mesh. And what you can do is you can place this in between layers. There's a really good video. I could pull it up. It's from an engineering channel, and they show where they make like a sand castle, but then in between each layer of sand, they just place one horizontal layer of GeoGrid. And what that does is then they're able to literally stand on the sand castle without causing it to collapse. And that's just because of the strength of the horizontal support. So that's why GeoGrid's used as well in retaining walls and stuff like that. So anytime that you work with like what could be a weaker material, although dirt's not necessarily weaker, it depends, on how much compression you use and how you cure it and treat it. But if you're working with a weaker material, you can make it stronger using things like this. So that's just some things to think about. But that's the thing. So from what I have here, actually, this is not necessarily the best technology to work with. Like even cob houses where you take dirt and you build it by hand, unless you're doing it all essentially for free with, hand labor, like you're in Africa and you're just using dirt in cob, then that, would be very cheap, but you'd be spending a lot of time and energy to actually make your house. And it's not necessarily...
What about concrete? Is it very difficult? Is it much different from this to make?
Well, this thing could probably make concrete bricks. I mean, I think the only thing with concrete is it's not as well insulated. So you also have to consider the cost. Like when you're going off grid, consider how much it actually costs you to heat and cool your home, because that's like a really big deal, especially when you're going to shop for solar panels, because if you want to heat and cool your home, you're going to spend way more money on that than you are on anything else. Like, for example, an electric space heater will eat 1.5 kilowatt, but then your refrigerator uses like 50 watts or 60 watts. You see what I'm saying? So your whole house runs for maybe 400 kilowatt. That's including your laptop. Well, that's not including like microwave and stuff like that, which will cause some peak in your energy, but it won't be consistent. Whereas if you're running heating and cooling, it can be a lot. And I'll get to that too as well if we have time. If you guys don't mind. But yeah, so let me see here. So this is just different pictures of the factory and the bricks. Also, this is something else. So if you're doing concrete, like for a concrete slab, interestingly enough, once you pour the concrete, you can save a lot of money if you polish the concrete after you pour it. So polished floors will last you a lifetime, and it's not like the normal floors you use like vinyl and ceramic. Which is kind of expensive at the end of the day, and it won't even last, and it's kind of gets dirty really easy, like you'll see like stuff in between the tiles, and these essentially this is what they'll use at Walmart or Costco or other places like that. So that's just something to consider when I was looking at flooring techniques, which was the best, and I think polished concrete is the best.
How do you polish it?
Yeah, when you say polished concrete, so you throw the concrete down and then level it, obviously, and scrape it. But then how do you polish it? That's just an after.
So you take like there's this machine that's like a buffer. It'll basically sand. It'll sand and buffer it so it's really smooth like marble.
Okay.
And actually, if you look, they look beautiful. By the way. Hold on,
yeah, because I know what you're saying. That is what a Walmart or a Home Depot would use for their floor.
Yeah, exactly. That's what they use in casinos. That's what they use everywhere. It looks amazing. Wow. So, this is concrete. It doesn't look like concrete, but it is.
What? It doesn't look like it. Wow, it looks like that?
Yeah, because so there's a few different things you can do. You can actually put down an acid. So there's something called etching, like acid etching.
Okay, right. It's like people using art, like metal or whatever.
Right.
Well, but some of these don't have. Like this is not, because what happens is there's also, remember, in concrete there's a little bit of rock. So when you start to polish it, it'll start to expose it. So depending on what kind of a look you want, you can really grind it down. And it's cheap. I mean, if you were willing to rent the machine and do it yourself, you wouldn't have to pay a lot of money. And if you do it once the floor is poured, then the concrete is softer, so it's easier to do.
Wow. So it becomes water doesn't penetrate it, and
no, not that. In fact, it's good to have water on it when they would spray it down with water after it was
right.
done. You can't really destroy a polished concrete floor. it's really hard to do. That's why they use it in, because imagine all the foot traffic they get on Walmart, Costco, and those types of places, you know, and they don't do it. They don't have to hardly do anything to maintain their floor. Yeah, I mean, they occasionally wax it and stuff, and maybe they polish it once in a while, but not much, man.
Is it practical for upper floor, or is it only for foundation?
Yeah, no, it's for all the floors. I mean, well, that's the thing. A lot of the things about going off grid is in your planning. So, for example, if you're going to do a 2-story house, it's interesting. It's good that you brought that up. So the cost of a foundation, actually, this might surprise you. This whole foundation here costed me about $15,000, or even a little bit more than that. It's really, really expensive. And I was surprised because I'm out in Mexico, so you would think that it wouldn't cost that much. But the thing is, the reason it does, well, is because this is by the beach, so there's the soil is weaker. And in that case, I'm using a heavier material and going 2 stories. So that's the problem. So when you use things like dirt and people think, oh, it's like the best, or tire home is actually a really good example. Tire homes are super, super, super heavy. So you have to consider what your foundation's going to look like. If you try to do a tire home on land like this, forget it.
You're going to sink.
You'd be building this super ultra heavy bunker on sand. And I mean, yeah, it would probably stand, but what would happen is the dirt would shift from under the house, and then it could cause your walls to cave in. It would actually be a really big problem. It could be serious. So, I mean, you know, of course, I think engineers exaggerate a little bit because of code. But
I think here in the Netherlands, you probably know about this, that they have to set up some kind of foundation with, in Amsterdam, I think it's even wood that they use, but they have to kind of control, it's almost like palisades because of the underground water or something.
Well, interestingly enough, the pyramids were actually built on a giant limestone. I think they just found the site. I don't even think they put it there. Well, maybe they're like aliens and they put the giant limestone there. But like, yeah, it was this massive bed of rock. So it does depend on where you build. And I think the key about understanding going off grid is planning in advance. Because if you think about how much you want to spend, even if it's like a few $1,000s, you can actually accomplish it. And that is the point of my research. I can tell you guys pretty much how much these things cost and also which ones are more or less convenient. Let me see if I can find some examples here. So that is.
So say if someone wants to build a house, how would you organize the logistics? Like if they're not in your country, or is it even possible to get those things done?
Well, so one of the major things, unfortunately, one of the things that drives me absolutely crazy about first world countries like America is permit laws. They disgust me. The idea of having to go through the city and ask for permission for something, for a material or for something that's been around for thousands of years, and then have them be like, "Oh no, we don't understand that."
Right.
Really upsets me. But I think the first key is when you're in a country like that, you have to work with an engineer who's willing to sign off on what it is that you're willing to do. And also, if this is really about survival, you might want to consider moving to a district or a city where they would actually not give you any shit. But there's ways around that too. So you could do what's called a pole barn. And actually, in my spreadsheet, so if you want to take like the winner of all things, pole barn is pole winner, pole barn. Yeah, so these pole barns are essentially usually storage buildings. Like the city would call this like an auxiliary building, you know? So the nice thing about these is that they're not very regulated in almost all of at least America. But I think all around the world, you can get these done for pretty cheap. And they won't really give you too much shit about trying to build a pole barn or a metal building. When you consider your cost per square foot, this is probably one of the cheapest things in existence. It's just extremely efficient. So it's funny because people always think about natural building materials, but honestly, if you're doing a pole barn, you're probably set up one of these for a few $1,000s. In fact, they have pole barn kits. They have like massive factories and pole barn kits where you're paying like maybe $15,000 for the factory, and you're getting, maybe 70 feet by 30 or 40 feet or something like that. And they even have things like fabric buildings, like clear span building. So like if you take these fabric buildings, they're even cheaper. Like you can get some of these buildings from like they're what they'll use like for airplane hangars and stuff.
Like a polytunnel almost.
Yeah, this is a PVC fabric usually. And it's funny, these things actually You'd be amazed. I saw one that was 40 feet by 60 feet from China for a couple grand.
Gee.
This, a couple grand. I mean, you can't beat this. It's way too efficient. It's like a tent on crack. So, and you can reinforce these things. Like, look how they put shipping containers here.
How many people would you need to build something like this after you get it in boxes or something like this from China?
Yeah, I guess that's the only thing. It's of course better if you're in like India or you know, Mexico or South America or whatever. I mean, when you build one of these in the US, there is a labor cost for setting this up, so that's where you're going to take in your extra cost. So even if you got it, let's say for $3,000 for a building like this, right? I think this one looks like it's a little bit more expensive. Maybe this one's like well, this is Clearspan. Maybe their brand, so they charge more. But if you go to China, it's cheaper. So, but then you have to consider your shipping and import. So throw in an extra $4,000. So you hit it $7,000, and then you could probably take. I don't know what it would be in America to set one of these. It's a really good question.
That needs a
just set it up,
foundation, right?
Maybe $5,000. I don't know. To set it up. But it's still cheap, you know.
It needs a proper foundation, everything. And does it have like? Would it be something that people can live on? Like, is there a version that would be?
Well, so this is the trick. You see, the trick is build one of these and then put whatever you want inside. So there's on my spreadsheet. There's these things. There's these shipping container homes. Let me see if I can find them. All right. So check this out. This is also one of the best things you'll ever see for going off-grid. This thing's fucking fantastic. All right, so this is a shipping container home. And you know how you talk about, so actually taking a shipping container and retrofitting it and doing it yourself, I guarantee you will not beat this price. So this is $7,000 from China. They're just too efficient. Like, these come with a bathroom, they come with electric, they come with plumbing, so you don't have to do any of that.
It's unbelievable. 7,000?
Yeah, $7,000. And
Wait,
in
they
fact,
come
you
with-
could fit two in a 40-foot container, and this will give you about 400 square feet. So,
And those come
because
with-
it's like a 20-foot container, they probably go about 20 in the depth. And I think they might even produce them with 40-foot containers. It doesn't matter because you could weld two together right here at the entrance. And they'll customize the floor plan for you too. And they'll make it to the code that you want. Whoa. So
And you said
how
those
about
come
them?
with solar panels on the top already?
No, but you can get those. I'll go
gotcha.
into that too. If we have time, there's like stuff for energy and stuff like that. But this is one of my favorite things. So because this is actually cheaper than what you would pay for a trailer, and you're getting you're getting quite a bit more square footage out of it. And then a lot of cities would take this. You have to be funny about it though, because if you tell the city that it's, well, some cities have this thing about industrialized homes versus prefab homes, and what they do to prevent this type of behavior, which is like, you know, freedom. That's the behavior they really don't like. So what they do to prevent it is they'll say, oh, well, it's got to be through a certified manufacturer who does, you know, mobile homes or modular homes. So sometimes they do things like that. But if you just say it's like a steel and fiberglass structure, and then you just give them the floor plan, then you might be able to get away with it in a lot of different districts. I know that they put these down in Houston, and I know because Houston has no zoning. So, and I know I've heard them being shipped to Florida as well because I've talked to the manufacturer. So I've done you guys the favor of checking on prices and researching these things as well. Yeah, but that's not actually my favorite thing. Oh, this is something that I kind of wanted to show you. So I make these. Oh, that's my batteries. Hold on. So this is like a sun tube. I don't know if you've ever seen these. These are solar tubes. So another way to do your natural lighting is you redirect. So inside of this is Mylar, which is like a mirror material. It's really, really cheap. You can get a big roll of it for like nothing. And then this is just PVC. So I just connect two PVC and then Mylar, and I can redirect the sun kind of like this. This was like just a test. Obviously, it would never look like this, but this is just to see if we could do it. And this is like the light that we would get into the bathroom just from that. It's really bright, actually. Yeah, I mean, I know it's just like a lens flare, but yeah. So, but I want to show you that in a second because there's something incredible. And I'm going to get back to these. These are nickel iron batteries. So a lot of people, the biggest problem with going off grid is electricity. So people think that it's hard to store energy because acid batteries, you're going to end up throwing them out. Lithium batteries can actually be disappointing in the same way. So interestingly enough, and this, I don't know if this is a point for Nikola Tesla or whoever he stole the technology from, but the nickel iron is a technology that's been around for about 100 years or more, and what it is basically a battery that performs electrolysis, and this one will last you a lifetime, so you'll never have to throw it out. These things could last 80 years, no problem. And what it is inside of the battery there's water and there is an electrolyte, which you would have to change probably about 10 years, 15 years. You change the electrolyte. It's just made of lye or something, so it's easy. It's the same stuff they use in soap. And this battery is interesting because it's not compatible with all the inverters out there because they have such a huge voltage range, and it's been insulted for being, slightly less efficient. Like people say it's down to 65%, but it's not. It's actually 80%. And they also say that these things can experience thermal runaway, which is not true. The newer technology doesn't do that. And even the older one was never really do that. So these are just incredible. They're like tanks. And to give you an idea of how much of tanks these are, my friend accidentally shorted out one of the batteries and it blew up because he connected one of the wires from like here to here or something. He instead of connecting it up, he connected one down. So then the battery blew up. Now, if that was acid, I would have lost all my batteries, and it would have been a loss of like, $5,000. But instead, it was fine. Only the one that blew up had to get replaced, and then the rest of them were perfectly fine, which is just crazy. These things you can't kill these things. They're amazing.
So run us through how much does that feed your whole house? This stack?
Yeah. Easily. So this system produces like at least 20 kilowatt a day. It'll store like 20 some odd kilowatt. Let me think. So how you would calculate it is each one is 1.2 volts, and there is 38 of them. I couldn't put all 40 because the range of the voltage is so high, because it can go up to 1.6 and then all the way back down to, there's another thing about this. You can fully discharge these, and that's something you just can't do with other batteries. You can let them sit and do nothing, and they'll be fine like years later. You can overcharge them, and in fact they like to be overcharged, which is weird because a lot of batteries aren't like that. So I just don't see that many downsides. I guess some people say that you have to water them, but you can buy an auto watering system that'll do it for you. So that's not an issue either. But if there's 38 of these, right? And then it's 600 amp hours. So this is the amount of watt hours you get. So you get 27 kilowatt. And to give you an idea, if your house is running, let's say an average house maybe run 400 kilowatt, that's like not even the average really. It's the average that people run is lower than that, or 400 watt per hour. So even if that was the case, you'd be able to run your house for a couple days without electricity. But that's without air conditioning.
How does it get recharged?
So this is recharged through solar energy, but there's other ways to get energy as well. But I think solar right now is the best because it's really cheap. I got like my solar panels from China for a couple grand, and yeah, you can get them it's ridiculous. I should show you the solar panels. It's amazing the costs that you get per kilowatt here. Yeah, so they pay 18 cents a watt. It's just amazing.
And how long will those last you? Just 10 years or?
Oh, no, these will last you lifetime. Yeah. But they're making them so efficient now. I think they're going to get up to almost 40 to 50% efficiency. So it's going to get to the point where solar panel will start to overtake the other energy generating methods. But I'll get to that in a minute because I have some other things that I kind of wanted to show you. This is the thing I showed you yesterday, Jaron. So check this out. Like the solar tubes, check this out. This is the sun portal. Actually, so this is like the sun is reflected and it's collected on this parabolic disc. And then it goes through this acrylic tube. And then every few feet, this light, I think it's like where this ring is, will magnify the light and send it further into the tube. And then what it'll do is it's used to light an entire train station.
Wow.
Look at that.
Incredible. Yeah, I
This-
thought it was something like this back years ago, but the idea was to try to use something similar to heat water. Not sure it's possible.
Oh yeah, with the Fresnel lens.
Yeah,
Are-
probably.
are you
yeah.
I
talking
don't know.
about the-
I was just I was thinking I was just literally thinking about this problem of architecture, sustainable architecture, and I was thinking that with something like this, with a mirror that reflects the sunlight, that can capture the sunlight, you can redirect the beam to do different kinds of things, produce steam. I don't know, but
Yeah,
I'm
in
sure
Africa,
methods.
in Africa, they use a hole in the roof and they put like a plastic bottle with water and
Right.
produce light inside the houses.
Mm-hmm.
It's a very similar technique, of course.
Yeah, I've seen those. They put like bleach or something inside of it. So
Yeah.
have you ever seen this guy, Green Power Science?
So it's parabolic
have, right,
mirrors?
Yeah, I've seen his channel. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he's amazing.
So
He'll show you how hot these things get. Like if you put something in the focal point of this
Yeah.
parabolic lens, it'll
Yeah,
just
the
like
focus. Dissolve.
I wonder if he's gonna blow stuff up because it's always cool when. Yeah, see, he's setting fire to some wood. So yeah, you can definitely heat water with the sun, but here he's focusing it. You see, so he needs to get it probably at a specific angle.
Right.
But that's not so far off from that tech I just showed you, where they're lighting a whole train station. And to give you an idea of how powerful the sun really is, using mirrors, you can light a whole building, okay, with the sun, with just one source. So this sun portal thing this is just one source, and this can light a whole skyscraper practically.
So
'Cause
the
what you'll
mirror
do-
is moving with the sun in order to collect it in a proper way, or is that something
Yeah.
like that going on?
Yeah, it tracks the sun, and then this will magnify it. So it's trying to prevent any loss of light. I guess actually, I want to know what it's similar to is fiber optic. Because think about it, it's kind of like the same way. You're preserving the light, the energy in the fiber optic cable, and this is basically the same thing. So, and then the light's diffused on the edge of it, so that way you can get the light through your room. And it's preserving as much as possible. So you could take this, and you can even turn corners and stuff like that.
Yeah. Amazing.
It's amazing. Yeah. So
Now the problem would be,
If I
if
had-
I'm not mistaken, right? What would you do at night?
yeah, you'd have to use LED bulbs. I think LED is the best because they're gonna get the lowest amount of wattage.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So here's another.
Yeah.
Have you seen?
This house
Have you seen 3D printed houses?
But drag that open a little bit bigger. Oh, there you go. Thank you.
Let me skip these.
Printed?
house scientific site. This is an expensive never also is
There we go.
3D actually printed house.
Yeah. So this is the future. If I had to pick one tech for the future to get everybody off
With
grid,
the advent
would
of
be it.
Appy's core technology, construction
cuts out your
3D
labor.
printing opens a new round of evolution thanks to the innovative design of the printer.
see if I can
However,
see it
snow
printing
loads
out.
and duration appliances with exterior and interior finishing with material and
It's a commercial. Sorry,
development such as projects from can operate at temperatures as low as minus 35 degrees Celsius. Mix and supply unit, which
the
combines
thing is this thing can basically print a house.
By itself.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
for its dimensions.
And
High
here
printing
they'll have
speed.
they have the wall open so you could put any rebar, any reinforcement. And actually, this Apis Core printer can actually print the roof as well, which is staggering. They have this really clever way to print the roof. So imagine that they could construct a house within a day. This printer here runs $200,000. I already know its retail price, so it's too expensive. But what will end up happening is China will end up making this thing, and they'll probably make it for like 10 grand. Give it like 5 to 10 years, and you'll see these things for like 20,000, 25,000 or to 10,000.
Is it pouring a kind of concrete? Is that
Yeah,
what
so it has an extruder, and it pulls from like a mixer basically, and then it just see right here, I think this tube, and then it'll send the concrete up the thing, and then it prints the house. So yeah, that's
Crazy.
But obviously not everybody's going to be able to do that. So if you were, so the best thing that I would say if somebody really wants to go off grid for cheap is not tire homes, but earth bag. You ever heard of earth bag?
Haven't.
Okay, so these are basically shelters made from sandbags. Check this out. So yeah, this is what they do for a lot of disaster relief, and it's probably one of the top technologies out there because you can just take local dirt, but in the case of like tires, the problem with tires is they off gas. So if you have a tire home, the issue is eventually the heat and other things would cause the rubber to kind of let off of a gas, which is fine, I guess, if you stucco it and properly protect it. But yeah, I think that this is just a better way to go. So you can just take what these are like continuous bags, but you can also get individual bags from China. Like there's a few cents per bag. It's really cheap.
So you fill the bags and you place them?
Yeah. And actually the thing about this is that's a big advantage over other types of earthen constructions like rammed earth or like what I'm doing, compressed earth block, is see when I do my blocks, it's not just any dirt. I have to take dirt with a specific clay content and you can't just find that anywhere. So this is different with earth bags. You don't need to really focus as much on the clay content. You can just put any old dirt that you find in the bag and you'll see what they do. They lay them almost in dome structures. They can do the roof as well with this. I think that's not completely necessary, but it's kind of cool. And they can make some fairly large structures with this. Yeah, you see, the house actually looks pretty good.
Yeah,
so
crazy.
There's sturdy. They won't. I mean, the bags. Where are they made of? Can they get punctured or something? And so probably your house will fall apart.
Well, no, because you're gonna tamp it. So what you do? Have you ever seen this channel? It's called My Little Homestead. This is an amazing channel.
Here's how we built our super adobe building.
So this is basically like a family, and they always like work together, and they do all this off-grid stuff.
Yeah, that's the film, right? We heard about. Is that what you're saying, Jared? Sorry.
No, who?
No, I thought somebody suggested we watch a film called My Great Little Farm or something like this. No, I'm not sure.
If it's the same.
Yeah.
Yeah, but here you'll see what they do. They tamp it, so it's very well compressed, and then for horizontal reinforcement, like for tensile strength, they put barbed wire. And sometimes they'll tie it in from one to the other so that it just doesn't fall. And you can slam rebar through it too for vertical support, as well as using steel profiles and stuff. So this is a really great channel. I mean, they show you from start to finish how they do everything. They make rocket stoves, masonry ovens, stuff like that. They do earthen floors. Here they're stuccoing the outside of it. So yeah, you're not going to really, even if there was a hole, you wouldn't lose any dirt because you're reinforcing the outside of it. And if you do tire homes, the other drawback to tire homes is you have to fill the cracks with the tires because the tires they're not square. So what you end up having to use is like bottles. So there's even more labor involved, because then you have to take bottles, put them in between the cracks, and then use cob or lime or cement stucco to try to fill it. Whereas with this, you could just use any old stucco would be fine. I think they're using dirt, but yeah. So.
And they do that both inside and out.
Yeah, they do it both. And like this house, they say cost them $3,000. So this cost them only $3,000, which is pretty good.
Yeah.
But there's even better than that actually. So check this out. This is like probably one of my favorite things. This might actually be my favorite thing. So this house is about 1,000. It's about 1,000 square feet, and this is made out of polystyrene and graphene. So polystyrene is like an insulation material. Normally, you would think it's not used for walls, but I think they strengthen it with a little bit of graphene, and then this is how they build it. You see them they're picking it up by hand practically.
Wow. It's like almost like Lego then.
It's so
This one.
light.
Yeah. You can't beat this. This is about as cheap as it gets.
They built the whole thing in a single go like this.
Yeah.
It's like
and that
pitching
was
a
like
tent.
and that was probably almost like, think about it, like maybe a day or two of work. So you could probably put this whole house up within a couple days, and then that's what you're saving in labor. So if you work with, earth bags or other earthen materials, the issue you're going to hit there is, unless you're doing it yourself, you're going to be stuck hiring people for labor for the whole month. So even if you were in a cheaper country, you're still going to run $5,000, $6,000, and that's just for your walls, not for your roof, for your foundation and other things too. So
is that strong enough against wind and stuff like that? That there's this particular material, and isn't it too light?
It's actually earthquake proof. So, and the reason has a lot to do with the dome structure, because
stronger.
So what happens here is that any weight or anything that's pressing against the dome gets redistributed over here to the ground. You see, because of the shape. So any pressure here goes to the ground. And also polystyrene is not particularly weak. They're reinforcing it with graphene, so it's actually very strong. You could probably throw in some rebar if you wanted to. I don't even think it's necessary, actually. So the thing is this structure right here, I've talked to the manufacturer as well. This will run you like $6,000.
What?
Yeah. The whole house. Yeah.
Wow.
Of course, now I'm exaggerating a little bit. You have to pay for shipping, so you probably pay like I don't know if this is going to fit in a 20-foot container, but maybe 40-foot.
But don't
so
you
then
think,
you pay like
do you think things like
3,000?
this? Do you think things like this will start popping up in the States?
That's why I'm talking to you guys about it.
I'm talking about not the building of it, but the actual manufacturing of it, to where you don't have to get it shipped in a container from China.
Probably not.
No.
Now everybody gets everything from China, man. But yeah, no, there wouldn't be a reason why you couldn't. I mean, they make polystyrene stuff in the States, but not necessarily for construction.
Right.
So
Does that one have a bathroom and things like that as well?
Yeah.
And on the water supply and so on?
Well, that's an extra cost for sure, because you have to go, fit it with those things. So yeah, it's not like it comes with electric. Like the shipping container home that I showed you comes with everything already, like electric and plumbing installed. But that's not that hard. You could do it yourself.
This is the shell, but it comes with the windows as well?
No. That's
do
an
it
extra
yourself.
cost. Yeah.
Right.
So yeah, that's not completely.
Can you design the shells you want, or it has a particular set way of doing it?
I didn't see them offering that, but maybe there would be people who would offer it. Yeah.
Interesting.
So yeah, this is I guess if you think about all the different costs you would spend to finish, maybe you get it done for like 15,000. But that's nothing. I mean, think of what people pay for houses. It's appalling.
Yeah.
I've seen people pay like $500,000 or $400,000 in America. Europe was more. Well, I mean, even 100.
It might be just plywood as well, right? Sometimes
Yeah.
it's plywood you can punch through.
Yeah, they're made out of garbage. It's like they take cheap wood and insulation board, or they'll take steel's kind of good to work with, but it oxidizes, so they'll take like a steel frame. Yeah, I don't really have a big problem with steel. I like working with steel.
And this material here, they were looking at this. It is cheap. Why is it cheap? Do you know how it's manufactured?
Well, I guess you could argue that there could be. It's like what the heck is polystyrene? It's like a plastic thing, I think. Let's see.
But I mean,
Synthetic.
I've seen a lot of.
It's a hydrocarbon.
I've seen a lot of prefab houses that are available in the United States for what's getting pretty low, but I mean, still 20, 30,000. But that's much better than 500,000.
Yeah, that's another thing too. Even just getting a trailer is a good start. I mean, somebody who wants to go off grid, they should just start.
Red Pill Philosophy, I believe, is moving to a container home. Bob, do you know? Have you heard that?
No, I had no idea about that.
Yeah, I believe
I've been too busy with my own.
Yeah. To worry about other people's houses. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But the nice thing is I won't have a mortgage anymore. Thank God for that.
Yeah, that's great to get out of that. For sure.
Well, yeah, I mean that's the hope, is that eventually like this will inspire you guys or your listeners, and maybe you've already seen some of these things or not, I don't know. But this is to share with people and to let them know like what they can do to get out and get out of the system.
So that's the container home just as it comes, and then you just have somebody basically expand. Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah. Also imagine that you can pack up and go too, which is a major advantage. Like if you did try to put it somewhere on some plot and then they were like giving you trouble, there's another trick you can do too. You can take out a mining claim and then you can just put your thing there, because mining claims, they'll let you go where you take it, and then you could put whatever structure you want. And you don't have to pay for the land.
So how does that work then?
You have to go to the BLM.
Black Lives Matter?
Bureau.
That'd be all.
Yeah, the Bureau of Land Management mining claim. Yeah. They're cheap. They're like maybe $100 or something. I don't know. And then you get all this land, right? Oh, here it is. $165 for each 20 acres. Holy moly. Yeah, you can't beat that, man. So you get your land for
Are you supposed to mine it though? Do you have to dig a hole or something? Try to find something, or what's the deal?
No, you didn't find anything this year. You were looking for gold.
Yeah, it's very hard. Difficult to find. Keep trying.
So far, the thing I think was the best, the pole barns were freaking awesome. That I'm
They're
definitely gonna
incredible.
be looking at.
Yeah.
I mean, because
Check this out.
that's unbelievable.
They're large.
Let me show you some.
Well, my neighbors here, I took some pictures. They came together, got cinder blocks or something. They built a huge kind of thing. It's kind of like the barn you showed me, but they got some friends together. There's some big guys, the man and the woman and the kids, and they built this whole. They brought down a whole piece of their home, and then they built the whole thing in a week.
Oh wow!
Because as big as I saw that pole barn, then you start picturing, okay, you can put rooms inside of it and all that stuff.
Exactly.
So even if the pole barn is, I mean, because if for somebody who's out there who says, well, I don't have any money right now, I don't have anything saved, well, you can start to imagine that, would you be able to start saving if you really thought about it, and how many years would it take to get, I don't know, 30 or 40,000, and from that, I mean, really, you could buy a plot of land and you could put one of those pole barns, and really start to put something together. I don't know. For me, that's
they wouldn't need that much. If look at this, this is $20 a square meter. Okay, like how much is this? This is 10 by. Let's just pretend this is 5 meters by 3 meters or something.
Okay, or 10 by, yeah, it looks like it's 15 by 10.
15 meters, so 15 meters times 22 is 200. So it's $400.
Right.
I mean, of course, this one probably wouldn't, because the garage, so it probably costs a little bit more. But no, that's what they're saying, right? $25. Yeah, man, you could live in something like this. And the thing is that. And why not? I mean, if you get more, you can get a lot of space out of some of these structures. And if you use like a larger pole barn, you could put one of those shipping container homes inside of this, and the city would be none the wiser.
Right.
They don't know what's in there, nor do they care. And even if they knew, you're storing it. You happen to be living in it, but you're storing it. They don't know nothing. And you get a lot of square footage. And then this way you can build and do whatever you want. Now, these aren't load-bearing either. So they are load-bearing, but you don't have to worry as much about your foundation costs, which is a nice thing. You could do like just a slab and you're good to go. Like a floating slab. So it's like a couple inches and maybe some chicken wire for your, you pay like a couple $1,000 for your foundation maybe. or maybe less. I mean, if it's just like a small one, it's, you know. So yeah, this is really hard to beat. This is why factories do this, because there isn't much of a cheaper way to go. And actually, so with this, the only thing is steel can tend to oxidize, but you know, they have galvanized steel and stuff like that, and a lot of these packages will come with that. But you can also use fiberglass as well, so fiberglass profiles. And you could make one yourself even out of fiberglass. Here you see pay like 20 cents per meter. So all you would need then is some sort of sheathing and roof. So it can get amazingly cheap if you properly strategize what it is that you're trying to do. I think the key is in the plan.
Yeah, the hard thing for me, because I've looked at a lot of this and found on different websites and stuff, you know, modern, prefabricated, either they're modular homes, they say they're customizable, they're U.S. based, and you can find them for 20 to 30,000. And they'll even tell you that everything's included, you know, plumbing, installation. But I never, you know, obviously I've never pulled the trigger on any of that, and I have no idea if any of those companies can be trusted. That, I think, is where, you know, the hardest thing for a lot of people is where do you start? You know, you'd have to find a trustworthy place, and then you'd have to go out and look for land. But I mean, I work with a lot of, you know, people who know what I do on the side. There's a lot of auctions and things like that, and I can find property auctions all the time, and you can find land in Colorado, Nevada, even California, pretty damn cheap, but it's just land out in the middle of nowhere. So then from there becomes the problem of, okay, now I've got to hook up solar. How do I do plumbing? And that's where it gets a little bit over my head, and I get scared and go back to the city life. That's my problem.
Right. So the thing about that is, for example, when you're dealing with a supplier, you would go through trade assurance. And what this is like an escrow. Mm-hmm. So they'll set it up so that it goes to a Citibank account, which you'd wire to. And the provider won't get their money until you've confirmed everything is okay. Right. So I've never had a problem on Alibaba. Never. If there was an issue with it, you could literally send it back. You know, but you'd have to do it when you get it. It can be kind of a hassle, so you do want to make sure you go with a supplier that's well liked and is communicative, but you know, they can be verified. You can send somebody out to their factory if you want. There's a service that they have for that as well. And yeah, and then you can get like low capacity containers. Sometimes if you coordinate your container, for example, there are certain companies, it's not actually, they'll do it for you automatically when you have like a commercial import person who you work with, mm-hmm. and they'll coordinate the whole thing. I think actually the company itself that you do, which has the container, they'll do it automatically because they know that there's a certain amount of things headed to, let's say, you know, San Diego, and they'll put all of the different things that you ordered into one container. So you save a lot of money that way. Instead of having to order multiple containers. You see what I'm saying? So if you know that you're going to order some stuff, then you just get it all sent in one.
Excuse me.
And here's another one. This is kind of cool. So this is another innovation, which I really love. These are pin foundations. So foundation cost is obviously an issue. And one of the ways to reduce your foundation cost, and this is low impact. See, a big cost of foundation is excavation and hauling away dirt, surprisingly. So if you had the ability to do a low impact foundation, which was able to handle your structure, which you can do. And the way these work is they take basically this concrete pad stone. And to be honest, I think a person could do this themselves with just a little bit of welding and some steel. So I don't think that this is even fully necessary to go through this company, but I've talked to them and they're pretty cool. But basically they take these pins and almost like a spider web, they drill them down into the ground. And then this way that they're going and they're transferring all the energy from the house into the ground. And these are really strong, honestly. They use them for like decks, and they even have them for houses as well. So imagine you'd be done with your foundation in a day. And yeah, I can run you guys through the costs of all these things too, like for solar and stuff like that. Here for air conditioning and heating, you would want to use a mini split system. This is by far, like bar none, there's nothing that's even close to as efficient as mini splits. So what mini splits do is they transfer the heat. You guys still there?
Mm-hmm. Yep,
Yeah, so see what this does is, so generating heat, like for example, if you generate heat with, like a space heater or even with gas, the issue is that it's expensive to generate heat. I mean, even if you use a fireplace, you're still using some sort of fuel, like a pellet, fireplace or wood burning or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
They're good, but these in my opinion are much, much better. So what these do is they use a refrigerant, and the refrigerant causes the heat to be transferred and moved from one side of the house to the other. So what's cool about mini splits is not only do they heat, but they also cool, and you'll save about, like I said, about 70% on your energy. And these have inverters inside of them, so they run like a DC inverter. So what they'll be able to do, the advantage to DC over AC, is that you can increase or decrease the amount of energy you're using very, very fluidly. So it's essentially perfect. So it can run at very, very, very low capacity. So it's kind of like always running a little bit, but it can drop the amount of watts that it consumes effortlessly. So it can keep your house at like a perfect temperature. And these have multiple zones. So this will come, like, let's say sometimes these inverters will come with 2 or 3 different zones. So each different room can have its own temperature control, and it'll run you like a couple grand. So I wouldn't say that it's cheap, but if you consider one of the biggest costs of a house is heating and cooling, by far. I mean, I've been stuck with like energy bills of like $400 or $500 when I wasn't using this. Mm-hmm. Because I was trying to heat my house for the winter or something like that. It can get very expensive.
Yeah, to say the least. Our electricity bill, just before we moved out, last month electricity bill and the month before was over $400 just for electricity.
Yeah,
have you invested in a mini split?
No, that's why I've really been kind of taking all this stuff in. This is amazing. Of course, here in the Carolinas, almost everything is run on that. I was amazed, but for whatever reason, they don't use a lot of gas here. Everything is running on electricity, which I thought was interesting.
Well, gas will definitely be a cheaper way to heat and cool your home, but it'll be nowhere as cheap as this. This will dramatically reduce your. I mean, it depends. I mean, some electric companies will fine you once you go over a certain limit, and they'll start charging like a higher tariff. But
yeah, and Denver was headed for that. Right. That's another reason why I left there. It's ridiculous, the costs.
Or you can be out here in California where they shut the power off every day for 30 minutes just for fun.
That's right. They're doing the rolling outages out there, and that's got to be hell. You got the smoke coming in. You can't go outside. They kill your air conditioning. I mean,
it's ridiculous. It absolutely is a joke. But
that's why this is so important.
Right.
Yeah, it is. It is, and I really appreciate you going over this because it's fascinating. And even though I just got my new house and all that, a lot of these technologies that you've been talking about today will still fit into existing houses, from what I'm gathering. So.
Oh yeah, that's the whole point of it. I don't list anything here that is not accessible. That's why I was actually bringing up when I first came into this. Why that a lot of the techniques that people do, they get intimidated, like what jeranism said. They think about it like, oh man, I don't know which one's the best, because I've looked at all these. I've looked at Aircrete, I've looked at Cobb. I really like Aircrete, by the way. I have an Aircrete maker, but that's not the point. I think that when you look at these technologies, it gets overwhelming because you think, well, how much does it really cost? And that's the thing people don't understand. It can be really expensive just to build a roof.
Right.
Especially if you're going for 2 stories and it's like load bearing, it can be expensive unless you know a lot of tricks. You might have to. I mean, one trick you could switch from steel to fiberglass, for example, maybe. But fiberglass has its own drawbacks. I mean, it won't deform. So if fiberglass is about to fail, it'll just break. That's the only drawback. But it's stronger than steel. And it's way cheaper. So there's things that you can do, but then you coordinate labor. You're thinking about, okay, now you're going to do your roof. You're going to coordinate labor for your roof and stuff like that. So it can get really overwhelming, which is why I show these different things, especially the Chinese shipping container homes. Like if somebody's really intimidated, they should just go for something like that, or even like a travel trailer, or if they have even less money, even retrofitting your car.
I think
is
that
like
the biggest,
I hate to say it, but I would do it.
The biggest fear, though, is the idea of, okay, if I'm going to move somewhere, well, you can't just move to empty land and then say, okay, now that I'm here, I'm going to start working on getting this container home. Like, you know what I'm saying? You can't just live nowhere until that container home arrives. So do you buy the land first? Now the land has to be close to where I live now, or else everything's going to be done without my knowledge as far as its shipping. How does it get there? I need to go travel there. If I travel there, where am I staying? It's just, that's the headache for me, is that I...
well,
that's where it pays to have friends, Jaron.
Right, exactly. Yeah, because otherwise...
Well, I mean, I think you start with one thing at a time. So, for example, if you were really going to go off grid, you have to think about where you're moving, and you actually have to like the area.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So it would probably be good to travel and check it out first.
Right.
And hang out there for a few weeks, especially with this Corona bullshit. I mean, you're gonna want to know how people are behaving, because if they're behaving like total jackasses, then maybe it really is worth going somewhere else. Like what you said is, you left Colorado, or did you leave Colorado or just the city you were in? You left.
I left Colorado and Denver. Denver specifically was the problem, but I left Colorado altogether. I'm in the Carolinas now.
Yeah. See, the thing is I left the United States out of protest like 10, 15 years ago. So I was so disgusted already that I'd gotten out way early, which is why, and I've been accumulating this type of information, to help people make the world a little bit better. And that was the thing. I noticed so many benefits in being outside of the U.S. Things are just cheaper. There's less restrictions. And it's easier to do the things that you're talking about, Jaron. I mean, getting land and stuff like that was easier.
Right. So then
cheaper
step one is to go to where you have an idea and then start there. And then step two becomes, okay, now let me look for land in this area that I like, which that might be step 3, 4, or 5 after you found the place that you like. So there's, numerous steps, which I think is why people think this is overwhelming, because they just think, well, I can't have a container home shipped to Argentina and just move down there. No, that's probably not the order of things. The order of things would be to move to Argentina and see if you like it, or at least visit, not necessarily move. So, that's why everything takes steps. My idea is simply, I know that a lot of people have problems with the United States. I'm a United States citizen. You don't have to do much to, move within the United States, and there's so much land out there. That I feel like it would be possible to move out, find a cheap place, land, and then build your kind of own spot out there. I still think that's possible here, but it's expensive. That's the problem, is that it's going to cost you more than if you did it somewhere else.
The problem with the United States is that they'll find ways to permit.
Right.
Like, they'll nickel and dime you on the permit. I mean, I can't say that about every district, because some places might be a little bit more relaxed, but I just know that even all the things that I'm preaching here, even me, it was causing me a lot of distress just thinking about it. Just having to go through the city to ask them permission for anything was... granted, I'm the type of guy, I would break the law and just do it, and just when they come, defend myself. But, obviously, you know what you're getting yourself into when you do that, and not everybody is going to be willing to do that. So that's also why I kind of brought up things about certain structures that you might be able to move if you had to. Taking out land claims, pole barns, stuff like that. There's ways around those types of things. And actually, you could just go get the permits. Some places will allow you. There's a couple places in the U.S. which don't have permit rules. But now you have to consider, with all this Corona stuff, is it even really worth it? I mean, are these places even fun anymore?
Right.
Because one of the things when I first left the U.S. is really distressing. I'm like leaving friends behind, leaving family behind. And I'm on my own essentially, so that was hard. And I can sympathize with you if you have to leave Colorado and you have friends and loved ones and family there. It's like, well, that sucks. But at the end of the day, you build your own family.
Right.
Your wife, your kids, and everybody that you have, that's your structure. That's your family. Those are the people, that's where your source of love comes from. And your friends, they're a phone call away or a flight away if you have the time. And if you're off grid, you have more money. Right. And you're going to have more time. And it's just way better across the board. I mean, if you have more money, you can do whatever you want.
Yeah, I agree with you. And we, thought about exactly the same thing because, yes, all my family and all Cammy's family is in Colorado. But it's like, we didn't visit them that much there as it was anyway. And we're figuring, well, if we actually wind up going back for a visit, we might actually get some quality visit time. And, because it's just you're going there for that specific purpose. But yeah, it is kind of bizarre. We come out here and we know a few people out here. We're not all that far from Karen B. And there's other flat earthers and stuff out here. But I mean, wow, talk about strange. I mean, it is so different here. I mean, it's beautiful here, but it's so different. But I do have to admit, I really like the Southern hospitality. And I mean, people are so friendly here. It's amazing. We're just blown away by that. So it does have its perks as well.
That's weird because when I moved out to Colorado from California, I was shocked at the hospitality of those who live in Colorado. So it just shows you how shitty people are over here in California that even that wasn't good enough for Bobby. He had to move out of there.
Yeah, no.
I've heard that certain parts of California are considered the least friendly state in the country.
Yeah,
kind of like New York.
New York seemed worse to me just because there's so many people, and the last thing that they are concerned with is any other human being, just because they're so busy and just fed up with it. But yeah, I think Owen Benjamin was talking about it recently, and he's so right. I think that's the outcome of living in a city. Is if you live in a city and you're around people constantly, and you're dealing with traffic and taxi drivers and people everywhere, then what you do is you grow to dislike people, and so you walk through the streets of New York, and those people are just heading from point A to point B, and they don't care about looking at anybody. They'll rush right by you. That's just an effect of living in a city like that. That's what's going to happen. Whereas he lives on a homestead.
Exactly, and that's something it's been talked about. It's called the metropolitan type.
Right.
It's what happens with people in the city. That's something that has been studied. Exactly what you're talking about. There's a guy called Georg Simmel. It's quite famous for talking about the metropolitan type in social science, and it is what you're saying. You need because of the density and so many people coming and going, you need to kind of make your own little shell.
Right, because if you put 100 people,
it doesn't happen in small communities.
Yeah, put 100 people in a room together. You're gonna quickly within a couple hours hate people in general. There's just gonna be too many people in there. You're just gonna hate them. Whereas if you put 2 people in a room or 3 people in a room, the people all of a sudden become the best part about it. Oh, hanging out with these people, getting to know these people, liking these people, doing things together with these people. But you would never feel that way in a room with 100 people. You would just get sick and tired of people real quickly. So that's why when you have a homestead, kind of like Owen has, he says he reaches out and appreciates each and every one of his neighbors, because it's like, all right, sweet, there's a neighbor here. You kind of grow to like the people that you're around. Which is, and I used to live out in the country when I lived in Gilroy, where, there was no neighbors to our left or right, but we knew the people that lived, I would call it next door, but it was, probably a quarter of a mile away. But you knew those people and were very happy with those people because you all shared that kind of country living lifestyle. It's something that's nice. You want that. So for me, that's something I look at. My brother just moved to the hills, basically in California, and sold his house in Los Banos for quite a bit. I don't remember what exactly it was, but he was able to buy land up in these foothills and then basically build his home from scratch for like $200,000. But again, he built like an actual home with particle board, the whole thing. But then I start looking at that like, okay, well, he bought the land for $30,000, and we're talking in California, so there's much cheaper places to do this, right? I mean, California would probably be the most expensive. So then I start looking for places around where is there a place where you can get some land and then build what you want. And I mean, some of these pole barns, the clear span stuff that you showed was amazing. The Apis core concrete printer was insane. And you're right. That's right around the corner probably, isn't it?
Oh, no, I mean, it exists.
Yeah, but
they have it for retail. You can buy it. This is recently released. But there was some people that did it before that. They were not as good though, because the Apis core is more portable, whereas the other ones were using almost like scaffolds to do it.
And then
so this one's better because it's like, it's turning from the center point.
Have you seen the
it's like
machine that
circular.
builds houses with bricks? Right, you've seen that
Yeah,
machine. Yeah.
They've done it with drones too.
Really?
Where they build yeah. So the drones pick up the bricks and then put them into position.
That doesn't seem like it would be cheap. That's crazy.
Well, I think once you get the programming down, I think the problem really is just your initial setup's probably tedious.
Right.
You know what I mean? And besides, I doubt that they're doing stucco or anything, so it's probably a very special type of brick. You know what I mean? But really, the issue, so the biggest, the most expensive thing in building a house is not going to be your walls, which is something that I've learned. It will be your roof, your foundation, and it could be your foundation. Depends on, like I said, the weight of your house. So that could be cheap, but it could also be expensive. But it's also
the
your
labor, right? The labor is a
fittings
problem.
and labor, yeah. So if you can cut that stuff down, then yeah, you can get off grid for super cheap. Extremely cheap, way cheaper than people think that they can. And yeah, this is actually what I had playing here is have you ever seen this one? It's called pot and pot cooling. So this is what they use in places like, certain parts of South America, Africa, stuff like that. You can do refrigeration for like nothing. And how you do it is you pour sand in the rim and then you pour water in this, and then anything inside of here will stay cool. And it works using convection, I think. So yeah, so you see they moisten a towel and then they cover it, and then this will keep people's goods cool for like, a few days. You see what I'm saying? So they don't have to waste as money on refrigeration. But this is like really low tech. I guess it just depends on how low tech you want to go. If you still want to not do electricity, you can do these. These are walk-in ground fridges. So these are buried, and then they don't require electricity essentially at all. They're similar, I guess it'd be similar to doing like a wine cellar.
Holy smokes.
You see? So you get one of these bad boys and you just stuff them in the ground and you never have to pay electricity. Although I don't think refrigeration's a big cost. It's not a big cost. Like I said, heating and cooling is the problem. So, and it's another reason to work with dirt as well, I guess, if you think about it, because you're going to save so much money. Those houses are super insulated to the point where sometimes they don't even need heating and cooling. But I don't like the idea of burying structures as much because you'd have to do a lot of excavation. You have to worry about leaks and water settling into your house. So there's other issues as to why I don't like buried structures. I like them, but they're not my favorite. And as far as the energy stuff, so I've researched that as well, and I've decided that actually the most efficient and by far, like by a landslide, the cheapest form of energy production is nuclear. It's not even close. Like nuclear is amazingly cheap. The reason why it doesn't come out cheap on the consumer level is because of the nuclear scare scam. Are you guys familiar with, hey, have you seen the documentary of Eric Dubé where he was saying like the nukes don't exist? And
oh yeah.
Yeah, so then
he's talking about nuclear weapons though, right?
Yeah, of course, nuclear technology.
Yeah, I don't think nuclear weapons exist either.
Yeah.
As far as nuclear power technology,
yeah,
jury's still out on that, but I think it might exist. Yeah.
Yeah, so there's the guy Galen Windsor who used to work on the old nuclear power plants.
Yeah.
And you guys familiar with him, or have you gone over him before on your channel?
Yeah. Oh yeah. He eats plutonium. He used to swim in the water and everything, and no problem. He was in charge of the security. Yeah.
Yeah,
and but then what the is just radiation, which is heat, and then you produce the energy that way, right?
Right. So the thing is it's one of the most efficient forms of heating water like in existence. And one of the things is that the reason why nuclear is about the same price as hydroelectric. So it is one of the cheapest for sure. And the only thing that comes into competition with it is hydroelectric. And that's because the cost of nuclear is driven up by really, really expensive, insurance policies, disposal, hazmat, all that other stuff, So really what it is that the security of having to run a nuclear power plant is so exorbitantly high that it makes it cost prohibitive, you know. But it's really funny. Have you seen this called How to Make a New? Have you ever? There's a documentary I think it's called Nuclear Boy Scout. Have you heard it? Have you heard of that one? This one is amazing. I have to share this. I really hope you guys will be able to hear my audio on this.
Boy Scout. He spent his backyard using every... Han was no ordinary Boy Scout. He spent his teenage years building a nuclear reactor in his garden shed. The result was an environmental disaster. So how did David conduct a series of nuclear experiments in his backyard using everyday items?
You can make a model of a nuclear reactor using these materials which you have at home. Thorium is a radioactive element which is used in old gas lanterns to make them glow more brightly. To extract thorium for your own experiments, get as many lantern mantles as you can find. Blowtorch them into a powder. Mix the powder with some lithium from a battery, then wrap it all up in foil. Now heat your chemicals in a tin can filled with cooking oil. This will give you pure radioactive thorium. If you have enough of it, you can fuel a nuclear reactor. In a reactor, thorium can change into uranium or plutonium, which is used in nuclear bombs. A neutron gun makes elements radioactive, so you'll want to build your own. You will need a lead block, some aluminum foil, and the radioactive americium from hundreds of smoke detectors. The americium will give off a stream of radioactive alpha rays. When alpha rays hit the aluminum in the foil, they produce subatomic particles called neutrons. Neutrons react with other elements and turn them radioactive. Your neutron gun is neutron fun and an excellent source of radiation. To extract the radium from your glow-in-the-dark clock, you have to take the hands off very carefully. Gently dip the hands in solvent to remove the paint. And there you have it, real glowing radioactive radium, an excellent high-grade source for your reactor. It's time to bring together everything you've learned from your nuclear experiments. Place the americium from the smoke detectors and radium from the clocks on a piece of foil. This will be the radioactive core of your reactor. Make some cubes out of the thorium from the gas lanterns and ordinary charcoal and wrap them in foil too. Arrange the cubes into a bigger cube. Drop the americium and radium core into the center of the cube and bind it all together in duct tape. Cobalt drill bits will act as your control rods. This is now a makeshift reactor. If the reactor is working, you can now make plutonium.
Please tell me you heard the audio.
Yes, this is insane. Holy crap.
I love that video so much. It's so hilarious. I had to try to avoid laughing when watching it. So, yeah, but basically there's been kids, no joke, who've made their own nuclear stuff at home. You can catch a few articles on it. And then, of course, then they get raided and the FBI comes in and give them all this shit, so. But,
so it's not recommended.
Yeah.
Not recommended. But if you were to make something like that though, and turn it into an energy device to produce your heat or air conditioning, I mean, how long would something like what he just built last? In other words, would it be indefinite or?
Oh yeah, that's the best part about nuclear power. You don't need that much material to really stretch a very long time. I mean, I've heard that just like a few grams of this stuff can practically go as long as you need to. Like if you were going to power a car or your house or something like that. I mean, when you think about the suppression of free energy, a lot of it started with nuclear power. And that was actually quite understand. When I was first doing my research, of course, I have like on my spreadsheet, I have like literally anything and everything I found for free energy. You know, let me see if I have over here by electricity or energy. Yeah, I mean human kinetic power, micro hydro, solar panels, solar paint, Fresnel lens, hydrogen power, wind power, tidal power. So I have all this everything, and I even have like some free energy stuff, so like links to some of the different things that people have claimed. But you know, the truth of the matter is if I'm going to come on here and I'm going to talk about that stuff, right? I don't want to give you guys stuff that some guy's built in his garage just to say like, oh, well, this could work, but we don't really know because I haven't like replicated it. So because of reasons like that, I decided to choose things that consumers have access to. So like people have access to solar, they have access to wind, they can do it. And it's honestly not that expensive. As I was showing you, you could get, I got like 10 kilowatt of panels, which is like a tremendous amount of energy. And I got that for like a couple grand from China. Now, granted, I had to pay shipping and I have to pay for the inverter. So there's another 1,500 right there. So when you're all said and done, you're probably going to pay about 9,000 for a system like that. But
So
that's
you talking
okay,
to
'cause
us?
in the
you talking to us
Huh?
now, and everything is on. You're doing all your power through solar as we speak.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, it would change. I actually, so I have another thing that I'm doing too, which is atmospheric water generation. So atmospheric. So I can actually generate my own water.
Yeah, we could probably pull that off real easy here in the Carolinas. It's humid as AF here.
Interestingly enough, it doesn't have to be that humid. So
yeah, that's what I heard from when they tried to put that in the desert. I think in Ecuador or Colombia or Peru, I forget. It's super dry. Basically, they had these, I don't know how, the convection tower that collects the humidity from the air and produces pure water for drinking, and they got rid of that right away because it's free water from the air.
Yeah, I mean, if you really want to be a humanitarian and help people, then that's probably one of the best things you can do. However, I should mention here, atmospheric water generating is actually the most expensive way to produce water, which is why people don't do it. But you have to also consider that if you're kind of efficient with your water, see, it's not that it's expensive to produce water. It's more just like you have to think about that you are making your own water. So most people can't well for water. They don't have a way to do it. So they're still going to rely on the city. But just the fact that you can trust the water that you produce is a big deal.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that you can trust that the water you're producing is absolutely perfectly excellent quality. So I think even if it's just enough for your drinking and just dishes and stuff is fine. I mean, even for toilets, you can use incineration. If you don't want to use water, you can use incineration toilets, which are pretty good. And like that's it really good. Like if you're going to retrofit like a short bus or a trailer, and you don't want to deal with the black and gray lines, then incineration septic systems are actually pretty excellent. You know? So because the water actually is one of the biggest consumers of water, or the toilet is one of the biggest consumers of water. So it uses multiple liters per flush. So that's where you're losing the most water.
So you're burning?
Huh? Yeah, it burns them. And it's like an ash. You don't smell it. It goes out. It goes out of a smoke plume. It doesn't even smell bad at all. These are what they look like. They're for RVs. Wow. Yeah.
I've never heard of that.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff. I mean, it's probably too much for today's show to go over all of it. That's why I picked some highlights for you guys of all these things that I'm doing, and even the stuff that I showed you, I've had to skim over some details.
Yeah,
but
this is great stuff, though.
Lots of stuff.
So here's another thing. So the most expensive part of an electricity system is definitely your battery, by far. That's why most people don't do it. And to give you an idea, the nickel iron batteries that I had, let me pull up the photo again. So these costed me, they're not really that bad when you think about it. It's like a couple $100 a piece. So compared to acid or lithium, it runs me about the same as a lithium pack. People think they're more expensive, but they're not because you can just get them from China. So if these are a couple $100 a piece in 600 amp hours, then imagine that this system cost me about $10,000 just for the batteries, which is a lot of money. However, You can do. I mean, you
But
can
you
still
have all the
do,
electrical you need. You don't pay anything else. It's a one and done kind of thing, right?
Yeah. Well, and these batteries never need to be replaced. You know, like once you have it, you're done. This will last you a lifetime, and you'll be able to hand it down to your kids. So
That's
think of it that
amazing.
way. You're not just getting yourself. That's another thing about off grid. You're not just getting yourself off grid. You're getting anybody who comes after you off grid if you're using the right materials. You know.
Right.
Here's another one so if people don't want to go for the nickel iron route and they want to go through lithium, I strongly recommend using lithium titanate, not lithium ion. So lithium titanate is my other favorite for energy storage. And these are right here. Yeah, so these are 2.3 volts. So these things will last 20,000 cycles, which is, well, that's what they've been rated at. You know, we'll have to see, but I think they will. So these will last about 20,000 cycles. This will last you like 50 years, 40. They're way better than regular lithium. And they don't have the same problems that lithium has. They don't have the security problems of, you know, overheating or, you know, like if you have issues with voltages and sometimes they'll blow up. You know, you've probably heard of lithium batteries blowing up or going bad. They're good, but they'll be done in 10 years, whereas these will last you longer. The other thing about lithium titanate is they charge so fast. This is what they're going to end up using for electric cars for sure, because you can fill up your electric car at the same speed that almost at the same speed that you fill up gas at a gas station. That's how fast they charge.
Wow.
It's incredible. So, and they're not that expensive. Like if you look at your cost per amp hour, you say like, okay, this is $30. So $30 to find out how many watts you do, we'll take the volts, 2.3, multiply it by, just so anybody wants to know how to do this, multiply it by 40.
P equals IE. Yep.
Yeah, there you go. So 92. So we get 92 watts out of that. And if you have let's see, 2.3, so you could do 24-volt systems. So you'd probably do like 10 of these. So 10 of these, you'd get 920. And if you're consuming like 30, 40 watts a day, you could probably get away with this. You'd probably want to get a little bit more amp hours than this. So you could connect two in parallel. So you just connect two. Whoops, I did time. Whatever, but you get it. So you'd have 1,800.
Right, 920 times 2.
You know, and then you would pay, how many was that? That was 20. So like $600. It's not that bad. And that's just like for your basic stuff, like for your laptop and stuff like that. Well, for your house, you're going to consider your fridge is going to cost you 40 per hour. Actually, no, it's not. It's going to cost you 60 because the most efficient ones can get down to 50, but you got to spend more money on the fridge. And then your laptop, I don't know, what's your laptop cost you? Like another 40? Let's just say 40.
That'd be an awful lot for a laptop.
How much? They're less, right?
Yeah.
20?
Yeah, I'd say 20.
Okay, well, all right, well then
draw
we'll say
much.
your lights. Like let's say you have 4 LED bulbs. The LEDs are running 5 watts. So like let's say you have 100 now per hour, and then you want to take into account, well, like a water pump and other stuff. So let's say you're going to run 200, yeah? So 200 times 24. This is what you want in a day. So you're going to need 4.8 kilowatt minimum for like a comfortable house. This is like a minimum, I would think, but this is fine. So you could take from these batteries, for example, how many did we get here? 2.34 times, okay, that's one battery. So now we'll do 20 of them. Okay, so we have to do a little bit more. Times 4. Okay, so that's, what was that, 20, 80?
So 25.
80 times 30. Okay, so we're going to pay $2,500, basically, for this system, but this will last you a lifetime. And then there's some shipping.
Well worth it.
Absolutely.
Oh,
Especially
yeah.
when, like Bob said, you know, if it's costing you right now $300, $400 a month.
Yeah.
Yeah, is that how much you pay? Is that how much you pay for energy, Jaron? $400 a month?
No, mine's a lot less, but we try and keep the air conditioner off as much as we can. I mean, right now we have to use it because Mrs. pregnant, so right now it's about $200.
Yeah. Well, if you want AC,
so
you're
it's
gonna.
what you spend in a year, right? It's more or less.
Yeah, no,
Is that correct? Like,
yeah, I was kind of doing the math over here, and I was coming up with, within 2 years, you definitely have paid for it, is what you would have in a house in a city here. So I was looking at it like everything after 2 years is you're in the clear.
Free.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I can definitely tell you I'm going to be adding a lot of this stuff to my house as we go forward, because this is just unbelievable. You've really opened my eyes a lot here. This is great stuff.
I'll share it with you later.
Easy
man,
to set up after you to connect all
Okay.
these batteries together and have a system like yours. This is better than yours, you'd say.
I wouldn't say better. It's different. Nickel iron versus lithium titanium is a very, very close call. It depends on what you want to do. I mean, you'll be able to pull more energy in and out of these. So one of the little drawbacks about nickel iron is they're going to charge and discharge a little slower than your average battery. It's still pretty good, but this is going to be super fast charge and discharge. So this can help you generate a lot of energy at once, but you wouldn't necessarily need it for a house. So really, at the end of the day, you want to think about your heating and cooling, if that's even necessary, if your house is not super insulated or anything.
Do you get
and also, Jaron, have you looked into propane AC? I think that there's a way to do air conditioning with not electricity, but I could be wrong. I've looked it up before, and then I don't know because I haven't found like a model for it.
So as far as your place right now, are you ever in any? How's the storage on the battery? So for instance, like right now where I'm at, we're full of smoke. I can't even barely see the sun. Does your system allow for 3, 4, 5 days with no sun? It would store your energy enough? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, well, where I am is kind of weather similar to San Diego, so it's sunny every day. But yeah, if you consider that I have 24 kilowatt, so that's a lot, man. I could probably run 3-4 days, no problem. There could be certain times where I'm going to have to reduce a little bit what I'm using. And then another thing, atmospheric water generators will cost you 2 kilowatt for 200 liters a day, which is a tremendous amount of water. But
that's a lot of water.
You'll never be able to run 2 kilowatt all day unless you're willing to throw down some serious cash on your
But
on your water.
You have a refrigerator and a freezer running all the time.
Oh yeah, all the time. I'm actually a waste. I'm a hog for energy. I waste a lot. So yeah, I could waste more. In other words, I can run my 2 kilowatt water generator for about 5-6 hours a day, and still be more than enough to have for my house. And that would give me, you imagine, a quarter of. So I'd maybe pick up 50 liters a day of water, of fresh water.
And that's pulling all from the atmosphere.
Yeah. And actually, so the water, I think you do kind of have to purify it a little bit, but you would just use like a sand filter. So I wish I could show you a picture. The filter that I have is like a whole house filter. And what it does, it has this like charcoal or sand, or I don't know what it is, carbon inside of it. And I really like filters where you don't have to go buy new filters. I feel like that's such a scam.
Yeah, we all use a water distiller in our homes, which obviously plugs in and probably uses a ton of electricity. I've never even paid attention to that, obviously, but
I use 1,000 watts.
Is that how much it is?
Yeah, probably. I haven't looked, but it's got to be at least a kilowatt. I would say.
A ton, yeah.
Yeah, so not like these. I found a good one. I think it was on eBay. But yeah, it looks kind of like this, but it's not. And so there's some kind of like this. Yeah. Actually, this could be it. Whole house water filter, granular activated carbon. It's kind of like this. But this is probably not the one. No, this isn't the one I got, but the point is if you get a filter where you're able to switch the material yourself without having to buy a new filter. I like the fact that the one that I got, I can just open it. So the water then comes out from the water from air machine, and then you can use a thing called UVC to purify it. So UVC LED. There's only actually one manufacturer who does this. But it's basically ultraviolet without the mercury bulb, which I like. And then another thing, I don't want to be able to replace bulbs, so I want it to last a lifetime again. So this is ultraviolet light emitting diodes. And it's kind of like a newer technology, but they use them for sterilizing water, you know?
Oh, wow. You know what, Jaron? It uses a lot less power than I thought it did. It's only 580 watts.
Okay.
But still, I mean, that's good. Wow.
It's not bad.
I stand corrected. I had to look.
Yeah. But actually, so here's another trick. If you get land near a running stream of water, man, you are set.
Bob got that
that's
going.
because you can do.
Yeah, you know what? I was just going to ask you about this because the house we just bought, we have a large river running through our backyard. It's beautiful.
Oh man, dude, you are in luck. You're fine. You're perfectly. You'll never have to deal with energy, and you won't have to spend that much at all. Maybe a few $1,000. I'll tell you why. So you're gonna take what you want to get is here from Ali. Wow, I'm really glad you told me that. So you can get.
I am too.
Go hydro. So watch this. You can get a Pico hydro generator. Some of these are crazy. What is this? 200 kilowatt? No.
Oh, that ought to be enough for the neighbor.
So yeah, you could mine Bitcoin. That can't be right. No, that can't be right. So yeah, here you go. So like a Pico hydro generator. This is 3 kilowatt, right? $760 a set. There you go. Your problem is solved. You have energy. So like I said, the thing that's, I guess if it wasn't for nuclear, then it would be hydro. But the thing is, you need to be near a river. That's the thing.
Well,
and of course, you don't want it to freeze over. You have to have a plan for when it freezes, if it freezes. You know.
I don't think it'll ever freeze. But then again, I don't know. But I don't think so.
Well, then you're good to go, man. Yeah, you set up one of these things. And the reason why this is so important here is this is basically, I think this will come out as AC too. Yeah, so I don't even think you need to convert it. I think you could just go straight to your house. And the thing is imagine you're producing this all day, you know? This is all day that you're going to be producing energy. And the thing is, because you're doing that, you can drop the cost of batteries.
Oh, yeah.
That's like the $1 million question. The problem with solar is this is a huge mistake I made in the beginning for your listeners to know about this. So the thing with solar is I'm sitting there thinking, oh, yeah, I'll be like king energy because I'm looking at like the rating of the solar and I'm like, oh, you see, it's 10 kilowatts. So in my mind, I'm thinking 10 kilowatt per hour. You know, I thought I was just going to throw energy around. And I'm like, oh, wait a minute. No, that's not what they mean. Because when you take a 10 kilowatt system, you're only producing for 4 hours a day. So a 10 kilowatt system gets you in solar 40 kilowatt. You see? So wind is probably a little better if you want consistent energy, but what?
Yeah, the river keeps going all the time, right?
Yeah, exactly. This doesn't stop. You may have to dam the river. And then there's a question about whether or not you can screen it. Some people like to screen it, some people don't. But yeah, so this is running all day. So what this does is this is going to drop the cost of your batteries dramatically, because then you're only going to need just a little bit of battery. You see, you can run this right to your house. So now who can't afford to get off grid when you're looking at these types of things? Of course, you're still going to have to worry about shipping, but this is like a game changer if you can get near a river. Of course, you don't want to disrupt the natural habitat either. So you want to make sure if you're distributing the water through like a pipe or you're damming the water, make sure that you.
I was going to ask you something. I remember when I was a child, I used to go to this place that had a water clock. I was just fascinated by it because it used the weight of the water and it kept filling and going up and down. It seemed like almost like a perpetual motion kind of thing. Is that possible to do with making the water somehow fill something that creates a counterweight that makes it go up so that you can create a flow like that or something that...
I'm not quite sure what you're referring to. I'm looking for one now.
Also, can you drop that link for the hydro turbine in our Skype chat?
Yeah, I'll give you everything after we get off the call. Okay. So
This-
I'll
this
give you
is-
access
this is
to my
sorry.
spreadsheet, and you'll
Okay.
have.
So imagine that you have a counterweight with that fills up with water and makes something go up, and that creates some sort of friction that you can harvest. That's kind of the idea. If you have water coming into one part and that fills something up, that makes something else go up with a pulley type of system to get the water
So
flowing.
You have a counterweight. I see. Well, then how do you get it
Or
back down?
different compartments that fill up, right? Depending on how you fill the different compartments, then you have the structure to start moving, and different compartments fill. As they fill, other things go up, and that generates a kind of friction or a current. Or
I see. So what you're saying is you have water fill into a bucket, and then you pump it out, or it comes out, right? But then it falls down. But then there's a counterweight. So how would that work?
Well, for instance, the water. Imagine you have two elevators. The simplest way to try to imagine, like you have two buckets, and in a scale, but has a pulley, right? So the heaviest bucket goes down, and when it goes down, it pulls the other one up, right? As it fills with water, and then that generates when it goes down, the water comes out of the one that went down, and it starts to go the other direction. Something those lines would have water coming into different compartments and creating that weight that makes something go up, and the pulley itself would be almost like a water mill type of idea.
Have you ever seen Gravity Power? It's kind of reminding me of that a little bit. Because they have these gravity lights. Like here, check this out. So you'll take, it's not that much energy for these. Oh, actually, I want to find like a quick video. Let's see if I can find one. Well, basically, like, yeah. Here you go. So this light is powered by gravity, as you can see. And it's just basically like a weight. And there's gears, and then they tie something to the weight, and then as it's going down, it generates electricity.
It's kind of like a grandfather clock, the way it works, right?
Yeah, and all you need to do is just bring it up yourself.
Yeah, what I was thinking more was like water, almost like a water mill system. Like an old one that you put in the river and makes things roll and makes the grain thing move, so it hits something, right? That's but to create to then the turning of the wheel to generate some sort of power somehow, and the water to be always flowing somehow through.
Well, I know that they do that.
Device, but
I think you can produce quite a bit of electricity with a water mill. I know people do it.
It's similar to wind power, right? It's the same idea. You have something to spin.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I know people do this, for sure. But I think the microhydro might be a little more efficient.
Yes, it was probably a similar idea. How does that work? How does that capture the current?
They go into this, like, well, you have to direct the water into, like, a tube. And then it goes down this funnel, and then it just goes through here, and then the rushing of the water powers the turbine.
Yep. Just like they do with the big power generation stations, and they dam it up, and then they let it flow, and it turns the big old turbine wheels, which is nothing more really than an electric motor, except it's kind of in reverse. Instead of producing mechanical energy, it's producing electrical energy.
And then it powers the entire Las Vegas.
Yeah, exactly.
Huge one in Brazil as well, and I've been to it. They took us as children to go, and you take the elevator on the boat that goes from one level from the dam to the other side of the dam, and you see the whole thing.
Yeah, that's so funny, because that's when I first saw that river in the backyard of this house that we just bought. I was thinking to myself, I wonder if we could hook up a hydro generator to it, and then here you are.
There you go.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
It's as good as it gets, man. If you can get that, but if not, like,
it's actually on our property. We own it straight up, so it's incredible.
I would recommend, if not hydro, because not everybody has access to that, obviously, then you would use solar or wind. I like solar a little bit more than wind, personally.
I was wondering if you could use that same apparatus, because it needs to have a water current, right? All you need to know is what's the speed of that water current, and if you can create a way to just pump water through that, you can generate electricity without the river, for instance.
Well,
I mean, what is the amount of...
Well, one thing you want to consider is also if it's going to dry up. So make sure that when you're near something that's really running all the time, you know what I mean? Make sure that it's something that's going to be running for a while, because once you put the investment and time into running your whole house off of it, well, you could have a couple solar panels just in case, like if you needed to switch, that way you're never without electricity, per se.
Think of this, like, for instance, if you have solar panels with your battery, like a simple system, and you use that to run some sort of centrifuge, this centrifuge spins some sort of water that then goes into the other apparatus that collects the river water. But you don't need the river. You just need to run a centrifuge into that water pump thing. And is that possible?
Yeah, so let me show you something. This is because what you're talking about is kind of similar to what... So do you know how cities, one of the most efficient ways that cities store water? A lot of people don't know this. They don't use batteries. They make lakes, like an entire lake, and it's called pumped storage. So pumped storage is basically where you have two reservoirs, you see? And there's a hydro plant here where the water from the top reservoir comes down to the bottom and generates water, and then they pump it back up to the top. So in other words,
that's the idea. That's what I was thinking before.
On a small scale, yeah.
Similar to what I was thinking.
Yeah, but it requires money to pump up. You see, so this is where you're losing. This is where you're losing energy. So I don't think this would end up being like a free energy system at all, because there's a certain amount of energy you need to put in to bring it back up the hill.
Not even close would it be.
Well, actually, believe it or not, these are over 90% efficient. So they're extremely efficient. It's one of the most efficient batteries you could possibly have.
I get that, but you're saying basically that you're running it off the mechanical energy that's produced by the water running downhill via gravity, but then you have to use that same energy to pump the water back up the hill so that it can go back down, and then there's going to be inefficiency, which I don't even see how it could work.
It's more efficient than a regular battery. So a regular battery might be 80-something%, or 70%, 65%, I think, for acid, and these are 90%. So it's extremely efficient. It's much more efficient than a battery. And this is a battery, technically. So this is when you're using energy. Huh?
Even if that's true, though, I mean, how are you coming out ahead? How are you coming out with more energy than it's requiring to pump that water back up the hill? How does that work?
No, you're not. You're not. This is a battery.
Okay.
This is only for storing.
My idea for
energy.
Fixing that problem,
Bob,
was to use the counterweight. So as the water, as one part of water goes down, another part of water goes up with the weight of the water that went down and fills the reservoir on top. That was the idea that I had with the counterweight in the house that would keep the water, the top filling as it unfills. So some sort of system that would mechanically take, like an elevator, uses counterweight. So that would be the idea. The water gets transferred in the bottom somehow, and then with the weight of it unfilling, something brings it up, even if it's a vacuum somehow, some kind of idea.
No, I get that. I get that. I was thinking he was saying, as an entire system, and I'm thinking, well, how does that make any sense? Because it's a system. You're going to get that energy from the turbine, the water turning the turbine, but then you have to then charge a battery or whatever, and that battery is going to run a motor, which is going to bring it back up the hill. And that's like, I was thinking, there's no way that would be, that would going to
be losing in the end.
Impossible. Exactly. So now I understand what you're saying, though. So forgive me.
So you're saying something like there's a pulley, right? Let me see if I can sketch this here.
Rodrigo.
So there's a. Oh, Rodrigo. I'm sorry. So there's a pulley. This is like really high level art, guys. So watch out.
Looks good.
The penis pulley, yes.
And then this is I guess this is the counterweight. Is this the weight? And then what? There's like a bucket, right? We'll make a bucket. It's like high class bucket here. We'll fill it with water. So when it's filled with water, what happens?
Well, the idea is that, I mean,
I know.
I was just trying to illustrate the notion of
up.
the counterweight. The idea that is that as one thing gets filled up with water, the other one goes up and opens something up that lets water back into the system, so that you get this thing to roll, and so that your water keeps flowing down. But I don't know, I haven't
If you were
designed
up
this. It's
here,
just conceptual.
then it would empty.
It's just,
If you're up here, it would empty. That's fine. And then the counterweight would cause this to go down. But then when you're
something
here
else
and then
up
you fill with
mechanically.
water, the question that I have for you is, how do you get the water back up? So once you have the counterweight,
Right, because it's got to be pulled.
Imagine you have some kind of lake in the bottom, and you have a system to select which container gets the weight or not. It's something like this. I haven't really. I mean, I'm not an engineer. This is kind of just an idea of, together with the water clock idea, what I saw, because the water clock seemed to be. I don't know if it was just run by water.
you can't
Right,
find like a
we
link
had,
for the water clock, because I was looking for it but I couldn't find it.
It uses
Like this?
pulleys and different things to get
make
water. No, it was a huge one. It was an actual, it was a centerpiece in a whole shopping mall. It had, it would fill up slowly, second by second, and it had all the hours, and it was, I don't know,
Like
10
this?
meters high.
No?
I mean, a more complex version of something like that. It's almost like the idea behind a sand clock. Imagine that you have a sand clock that that has some sort of system that when it goes one way, it turns around automatically. And then you get imagine if you have a way to suddenly,
Maybe that
if you
thing
have a
on the
sand
right
clock
there.
and it's
Maybe
water that goes down.
on the right hand side it says Hornsby water clock.
Oh wow!
Let's-
Holy moly!
Is that what you're talking about?
That kind of idea.
I don't know, but that thing's
That
awesome.
kind of idea. Similar to that.
Wow.
Yeah. That kind of, no, but this one, it was made of glass, and the water itself would fill the numbers. So the glass, it was almost like a chemical set, right? You had the numbers were.
But was the idea supposed to be that it was like perpetual energy? Is that the idea?
Well, the idea is that the water would be moving, yeah, and be, with that with that control, kind of like what you have in a sand clock. You have that what do you call it? A bottleneck
Right.
that creates the time, the dripping, and then that kind of way of keeping the time lets make the things move, and the pulleys move, and the counterweights carry then water from one side to another. Imagine if you have a long.
This is my analogy for you. Have you seen the Illuminati? The Illuminati card game, the one with like the 9/11 thing,
Right.
in the Pentagon. They have one for perpetual motion. It's like perpetual motion machine. It works. It really works. And 27 scientists have gone mad so far trying to build another one. So it's kind of funny. But yeah, there's somebody must have done perpetual motion. I'm sure they have.
Yeah, the moon, the planet,
Well,
the sun.
magnets, right? I think.
Thanks,
Bob
God.
They are
was
all
showing
perpetual
this,
motion.
that they had a generator.
Nuclear power.
in,
Almost.
that
Well,
was
sorry,
the
nuclear
machine with magnets.
in general.
Bob,
I
I
don't know,
just
it's kind of like.
Bob, I just saw a
Yeah,
picture
I
of your.
remember seeing. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just say, Bob, I just saw a picture of your river, and I was definitely thinking smaller than what the picture I saw.
Yeah, it's big, isn't it?
Gigantic, yeah.
It's a massive one.
Yeah, it's huge.
It's a big river.
Here's my favorite for water generation. Have you seen? So these are the. Have you seen this one? There's like the Warka Tower.
Wow.
This is just basically a tower that has been engineered to perfectly capture water, and I can't remember how many liters it does, but it's a lot. Maybe it's like a couple hundred a day or something. I don't know.
So in your system that you have at your place, what is the part that sticks out of the house that captures water from the atmosphere? How big is it? What does it consist
Think
of?
of it, it's like the size of an air conditioner.
Okay.
So
Now, I wouldn't
even
think that
your
you
air
could
conditioner
get.
will produce some water.
I wouldn't think that you could get enough water. So how much did you say it pulls in? 40 liters a day?
Well, that's assuming I run it maybe 4 or 5 hours. But if I ran it all day, I'd pick up 200.
Okay.
So 2 kilowatt, 200 liters. Now most systems are going to be at least double that because they're going to have a purification system. Mine, I didn't want that. I was just going to do my own.
Mm-hmm.
So
this one is incredible. Hey, this is super elegant. The way it's built and how light it is and how effective.
What's the name?
This is called Warka Tower. Yeah. So this thing is incredible.
Sort of canvas?
Yeah, I think they use bamboo or what do they use? I think is that bamboo? Yeah, it looks
and what's the principle behind this to collect water?
So basically the dew and difference in I was gonna explain it. I'm like, magic. I don't know. How does it work?
Good old magic.
Yeah, nature magic. Yeah.
I'll just go to their website.
Does it generate some sort of different temperature differential that condenses the water or something like this?
No. There's no energy. It's just totally passive. It's just from dew.
Incredible.
Like, you know how like dewdrops forms on leaves and stuff.
Yeah.
And so it's just like that.
But it works during the day as well.
It works all day, all night.
All the time.
Let's see, how does it work?
I can't imagine.
It's shaped like a bottle as well. Interesting.
Let me see. Can I get a higher quality image here? Yeah. A group of antennas attached to the structure was silver kites attached to the tip, reflect light keeping birds away. Well, that's kind of cool. The triangulated split bamboo frame provides robustness and structural strength, keeping the overall tower lightweight and stable.
Okay.
Awesome. The canopy provides shade, creating... Okay, yeah, this is nice. What is it? So a triangulated network of polyester ropes is used to add stability. Okay.
It still doesn't
a permeable
describe the
mesh
magic.
allows air to pass through. So here you go. That's what happens. Air passes through, and probably because of how the mesh is designed, it captures the water.
Gotcha.
Then the water droplets fall from the mesh, and it's like a dew condenser. There you go.
Wow.
That's it. An 800-gallon, 3,000 tanks. I want to figure out how many. I have it down somewhere. I can find out how much this generates. Let me see. Water.
Now the
They
only
have a
problem
few
with it is
designs, it seems.
they call that clean drinking water, which is probably why they're spraying the sky with everything in aluminum, because now you can pretend it's clean drinking water, but I think it would have to go through some sort of filtration.
Yeah.
Bob, have you had anybody test? I haven't had anybody do. I should do it though. Is just test rainwater at this point. I wonder what it comes back at as a ppm. What kind of contaminants are
Yeah,
in it.
no, I haven't had anybody test it, but I wonder about that too with all the crap they spray in the air. What exactly it's doing to it.
Right.
So
I don't know.
hard
There
to
it
say.
is.
Hard to say.
25 gallons a day from the Warka air well tower. Which isn't that bad. Imagine this doesn't consume electricity, so we were just talking about how expensive it is.
Right. And
To
that's
generate
free.
water. But now we're saying that this structure almost indefinitely will give you 25 gallons a day. Jesus.
You can at the very least run all your food growing with this.
Well, more importantly is that you can give people water. I mean, there's people in the world that don't even have water.
Oh yeah. Yeah, for those people as well, for their farms, right? I guess it's somewhat they're using for. This is incredible. I mean, this should be everywhere.
Right.
I know. Yeah. See, that was another
Problem in
one
some
of the reasons I
places that it's
started-
too much water.
Yeah, well, they waste it. Like, look at how much water Vegas.
You need to be careful because without that type of water in the atmosphere, we're gonna lose our lens. and maybe the curvature appear again.
Watch out.
Be careful, man.
Yeah. Well, here, actually, speaking of farming, so the best farming method, actually, so another reason why I did all this too is because I realized when I was younger, I was like, the technology is already here, really. We've already had the innovators, we've already had the technology that we need to pretty much make it so that nobody needs to worry about food or shelter or any of those things. It's the government creates artificial scarcity, and that's the problem.
Right.
Even something like land ownership. If they got rid of the government and there was no such thing as land ownership, people would just build anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and there wouldn't be any limit on the land that we would be using for farming. And then people wouldn't be as obsessed with farming the same crop on the same land and depreciating the soil. You know, they wouldn't have any problem just throwing seeds wherever they want because there wouldn't be any rule. But yeah, this is so for farming. When you generate a small amount of water, what you want to do is you want to do aeroponics. I've looked at the different systems as far as aeroponics, hydroponics, and some of the other stuff, and I definitely love aeroponics the best. And the reason for that is because there's actually a couple things. So the fact that the roots of the plant grow in the air exposes it to more nitrogen, and then they end up growing faster. And what you can do is you can take the water that you use for your plant is actually recycled. So you're going to keep using the same water essentially, and you save something along the lines of like 90% on your water, which is just crazy. Also,
yeah, it's the same method of the airships, right? That they have inside.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's the thing about the Earth ships that you guys were talking about before, which is really cool. The Earth ships is more not, to me, it's not so much about the tire homes. It's about the design. The fact that an Earth ship is very strategically designed to make it so that every single one of your needs is met. For example, they'll take like a south-facing wall with the, you know, so when the sun rises, then your plants get all the light that they need, and they put the greenhouse up in front, you know. But I think a lot of people are limited in land and things that they can do, and then they think, well, it's not possible for them to grow. But if they start doing aeroponics, then they'll realize they can, and it's really cheap to do. Like this guy, this is a really cool video that you guys should find. It's called an aeroponics tower build. It's a 2-part build, and I really love this one. So this guy takes basically a barrel, and he just drills holes in it, and he takes, these are angled PVC, like I think like 45 degree, okay? Mm-hmm. He takes the plant, just puts it in here, and then the roots hang. And then through this, there's a hose here, and this hose will run the water in, and it'll spritz it around. And there's a lot of talk on forums and stuff about what parts to use and stuff. But it's not that hard at all. It's not expensive. And what it'll do is that this will just like spray a mist, and then that'll mist your plants, and then the water will be collected back here again in the bottom. What's so awesome about this is you can go vertical. So you save a lot of space on land when you start to go up, and there's a whole bunch of things you can grow. Like, there's so many things. I could find a list, but it's anything. It's everything that you would need to eat, really.
Wow.
All kinds of fruits and vegetables and stuff like that. And they grow really well, actually. They look good. I've seen all these systems. They look really healthy. And for the nutrients, what you're going to want to do, I actually really like spirulina.
But then you have to pump that back to the top. I mean, do you make up in what you lose in electricity?
Where, what?
Well, if you're taking water from the bottom and then you're having to pump it back to the top, right?
Yeah. But no, you're not doing it all the time.
Mm-hmm.
You're just doing it when you need to give the plants water and nutrients. What you're going to want to do is you're going to want like a sprinkler timer.
Oh, gotcha. Okay, I see what
you're saying. Water them a certain amount of times per day, and it'll just automatically do it for you.
Mm-hmm. From that basin.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah, you just have a timer. It'll set to do a certain amount of minutes and certain amount of times per day, and it'll do everything. And it'll just spray your plants. And then, of course, then that way, if you have plants with different requirements of different sunlight and different water requirements, you can put them together, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And they just grow amazing. You know? If you want to give them nutrients, because you'd be like, well, but they're not in contact with soil, so don't I have to pay for nutrients? It's like, well, that's true, but the amount of money you're saving on land, water, and also pests, because pests, with those systems, there are very few pests. that you have to worry about, which is a major benefit. So, but this is like the technology way of going about things. I'll show you one more thing after this, but this is the way that you're going to want to feed them, in my opinion. You would use spirulina, I think, because spirulina can be just grown with sunlight, and you just put some air and carbon in there, and then they really love that. Then they get excited and they grow, and these will feed your plants. And spirulina is one of the most nutrient-dense foods in the world.
Right.
So like they have the entire nutrient profile. They have all the amino acids. They have all the vitamins, all the minerals. And I'm shocked that this isn't used for fertilizer. Instead, they feed our
It's
plants.
It's an algae from river.
Yeah.
Yeah,
or
it's a blue-green
lakes.
algae.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's algae, basically.
Mm-hmm.
But you can grow
It
them.
had some of it. It's quite dense when you buy it in powder.
I have a spirulina powder I bought like years ago, and I haven't even finished it. I make smoothies with it, and it's so funny this stuff because it's a single-celled organism. So if you put like even like a gram in a smoothie, you know, the entire thing just turns green.
Plus, NASA grows it in space.
Right. Yeah.
So it's got that benefit going for it.
Yeah.
Space friendly.
And then there's the other way to, so this is the technology way to go about things. But if you have extra land, then you may want to look into the one straw revolution. So this guy is a Japanese guy, and he would make these little rice balls, and he would just throw them out into the land, and he doesn't water. He doesn't do irrigation. He does more like permaculture, and he combines different plants together to make more of an ecosystem. And he just, see, here's the seed balls that he does. I honestly think you could drop these things via drone and just force the government to deal with fruit trees everywhere. You know? Yeah. But yeah, this guy's amazing. And he gets better yields on his rice crops than even like traditional farmers.
Wow, yeah, they're
Which
not
is
going to let
fun.
that out.
I think they call it the one straw revolution, because then what he'll do is he'll crack straw and he'll lay it against the field, and he doesn't soak the rice in water either. So his philosophy, let me see if I can see him say it in the subtitles. It's really funny. His philosophy for farming is to do nothing.
I like that philosophy.
Yeah, me too, man.
That's good. Where do I sign up?
So the idea is that the survival of the fittest, if you put down a lot of plants and you just neglect them, you do nothing, but you combine them in a certain way, you kind of have an ecosystem that the stronger plants will survive, and then you can just go out and you can forage.
I'm trying to remember who told me that. It was 2 years ago at the Denver conference. One of the people came up to me and was telling me about how they garden in their backyard, and they basically took that principle, which was just to plant everything they could think of everywhere they could think of, and then they said that they kind of went by the survival of the fittest, and certain things started to work, other things didn't, and then they kind of just supported the things that did, and before you knew it, they had 30 different things growing, and they just said it's been an amazing yield, and it was just because whatever took off and ran on its own, that's what they went with. It's like, yeah, it's a great idea, rather than, to be so meticulous and, okay, I need lettuce here and I need my carrots here. Plant it across your whole backyard, and whatever takes, go with that. I like that idea, at least for somebody like me.
Yeah, I think you can even see him go out, like he'll forage. So he's like foraging for roots and stuff and plants, and
it's like Linda Garden.
That's how Linda Gardens, just whatever happens?
Yeah, Linda Garden has a lot of plants, food plants, but everywhere, where it grows, and
right. Yeah, I think that's better sometimes than trying to do it perfect and say, okay, I need this growing here and this growing there, which you may want for your own meticulous reasons, but really let things grow where they go. This guy reminds me, you remember the guy that you showed us that grew the giant vegetables?
Yeah, with the root, yeah. The giant vegetables. From Mexico, yeah.
Yeah, the guy from Mexico.
The secret was that he talks with the plants, and he asked the plants to grow bigger.
Right.
Obey. and there is a complete book, specifies in the technique made by a French guy. But that's really was the secret. I mean, the guy is also he only talks about I communicate with the plants. It's all you need.
Yeah. So the thing is the government they're going for everything now, and it's at the point where people really need to think about their own survival. So that's what a lot of this is about. And it's also just about thriving in general. Like, imagine if you had communities of people who were just throwing down like fruit and, all different types of seed, like almost like community gardens. And what if people started doing stuff like that and there was just wild fruit growing? One of my favorite memes is this one about like homeless people, whereas the question was, why doesn't cities plant fruit trees to feed the homeless?
Right.
Mm-hmm. And you know that in Cuba, that actually ended up happening because of the sanctions against trade, and they didn't have food coming from anywhere, so they had to actually turn to permaculture and started having fruit trees everywhere.
Well, they need a threat. They need a threat of what happens if you don't pay the taxes. What happens if you don't pay your property taxes? They need some sort of threat, and that threat is homelessness. So they need the people living in the tents on the side of the road so that you look at that and say, I don't want that to happen to me. I don't want that to happen to my family. If they did what they should do, like you said, on every city block where they've got all these trees planted, if they just planted, peach trees and plum trees and everything, then people would be like, man, if I become homeless, I'll just be able to walk along and eat off all these beautiful trees. They don't want that.
I mean, I don't even think that it's that they want to scare us, Jaron. I think it's that they have that much contempt for homeless people. Like, there was an area in Fort Lauderdale where they banned feeding homeless people. So if you fed a homeless person, you could get in trouble, and it caused protests. And there was like an old man that was like 90 years old who does, I don't know, he's like with a church and giving people food.
Chocolate bars.
And that's the thing that he would do. And the police fucking arrested the guy.
Right.
It was the most appalling thing I'd ever seen. And it just goes to show, like, if you're a sheep and you see that and you still don't get it, then... yeah, of course, then when Corona comes, you're not going to get that either. You know?
Yeah, I think it's
pretty sad, isn't it?
Yeah.
That the world has gone to that level. I mean,
That's
idiocracy. I wonder how far past that point we actually are, to be honest with you.
We're beyond it.
Yeah,
This
it
is worse.
seems that way.
In idiocracy, people were at least getting laid and having fun.
Right. Well, that's
You know.
what they're pushing now, right? Have lots of sex. It decreases coronavirus or whatever. That's the new line.
Well, I was sort of being funny about it, obviously. Love is more important than sex, but yeah. But yeah, so here's another thing. So have you seen this site, Less EMF?
Yeah, there's a couple other sites out there too that are really starting to come out with some good stuff and paint and everything else.
They have paint here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Bob's got an EMF meter.
Yep, I use a lot. And FYI, guys, on Globebusters Sunday, we will be world premiering Alex Conspiracy Music Guru's new video and song, which just happens to be about 5G.
Sweet.
Yeah, it's really
awesome.
good too.
Oh wow!
Can't wait for that.
Awesome.
Whoa, 30 decibels. That can't be right. That's a lot. I wonder if it's
Was
just
it
radio.
sound insulation?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. I don't think this is soundproofing because that seems a little high to me, just for a paint. I was literally
Sounds
looking.
pretty amazing. I want that.
Yeah, right. You'd be in a quiet room. Production studios should use it. No, I think this is probably referring to radio.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was
That's
going to
still-
say there's no way 30 dB of sound.
No,
I wouldn't think so.
That would be incredible. I'd be going, what would that stuff be made out of?
Gold. Yeah. No, so it must be for radio. That's still actually, but even for radio reduction, that's amazing.
That's pretty good. That's not bad at all.
So what is it made of? Is it lead?
I know they have. Oh shit, I don't know. I know there's some that are silver. This is carbon. water-based carbon conductive paint. It's conductive. Is that okay? 18 gigahertz. Well, anyway, yeah, so this is kind of cool. And then here's another kind of paint too as well. Have you seen Line-X coating? Okay, this stuff's probably hazardous, but it's amazing.
You know, I have to wonder sometimes if the whole thing about lead paint is not so much that it's that toxic as, you know, they wouldn't be able to use certain technologies to spy into your home. If that isn't the real reason, you know, for them kind of poo-pooing it. I don't know. It just makes me wonder.
Well, here, check this paint out. So this is like a covering, and this is just a rubber basically, and they'll spray it onto actually this little clip right here, right? Yeah, this is so behind this wall is a bomb, okay? And they set off a bomb, and they just spray the rubber on the wall, and then the building stays intact. So that's how strong rubber coating is.
Wow.
This is kind of an important thing to think about for different reinforcing and like, look, they could drop anything.
Wow.
And yeah, here's an egg. Watch, they'll spray it with the coating, and then that won't break. You know? Yeah, see?
That's awesome.
Yeah, they were making truck bed liners out of that stuff.
Yep. And they're supposedly really nice.
Yep.
I think it's a little pricey to do your whole truck, but it's probably worth it.
Yeah, probably. But yeah, the stuff when they put it on your truck bed, I mean, it literally makes it indestructible. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Whoa.
That's awesome.
It needs to be sprayed with that super heavy machinery type of thing.
Yeah, it's definitely not healthy. I mean, you see the guys wearing a hazmat suit.
Yeah.
That's a watermelon.
So if you get on your body, if you get this coated around your body, probably is a big problem. You get a hard coated.
Yeah, well, but that's the thing with construction in general. You always want to be safe when you're working and
wow, that's
building.
crazy. This guy's gonna no
So
way.
basically, you can build a house out of the plastic cups.
I seriously was thinking that. I was like, what if you just used weaker material, right?
Right.
But then you just spray it with this stuff. How would it be structurally? Like, you could use maybe like a weak fiberglass or wood or whatever.
I don't know.
Come on, this is not.
I don't know if I believe this one.
What?
That's insanity. What?
Yeah. It's awesome.
All right, now I have new ideas for how to build the house.
And then here's another one too. This is the last thing on the list. I could have selected more, but I just tried to select a few things I thought you guys would think was cool. But this is ultrasonic cleaning. Have you seen this?
Nope.
So you can use for cleaning things. This is useful for cleaning, especially mechanical parts. You use ultrasonic waves, which is a really, really high frequency, and you can see how dirty that is. And
That's how they clean jewelry, by the way.
Yeah, just shake it. They just shake it.
Yeah,
Vibrate it.
they use it for cleaning jewelry, actually.
Yeah.
But I've heard you can even use it for cleaning clothes, although it hasn't really caught on. I can't remember. There were some drawbacks to it. But still, when you think about it, it's a very low-impact way of cleaning things. I think that this is one of those future technologies that is eventually going to be the way to go, because the prices have dropped dramatically on ultrasonic devices. So that's what's caused this to be a more commercial consumer end product.
Wow.
But it's just using nothing but frequencies.
Yep.
It doesn't. harm
Frequencies
anything
are
at all.
amazing if they're used correctly. They can also be very deadly.
That's the thing.
Yep.
In the wrong hands, which we know that it is.
Yep, unfortunately. If the government has it, you know, if there's a way to weaponize it, they're going to do it. And that's what's messed up about these psychopaths that are in charge.
And it's so funny when you think of these things, and then you look at what they talk about in the news, and Trump is going around stealing the blue mailboxes. That's the big news for the sleeping people.
Brother.
Imagine if the news just showed these things.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. That's what I mean. Yeah.
Right.
The world would turn into
Imagine
like a
what would
lush
happen, yeah.
paradise overnight.
Yeah, it would.
They were able to turn the world into some Orwellian nightmare shithole overnight. So I'm pretty sure the speed at which they were able to market the coronavirus, I'm pretty sure they could market anything they want to.
Right.
You know, right now they're teaching people to treat their fellow brother like an enemy. They're, you know,
Yeah,
the common man, perfectly
I don't know,
healthy person.
I think this is more the I think this is more the end result of a long, tedious programming effort. You know, basically they've been spending all this time building the bomb, and you know, the last several months they just lit the fuse, right? So I think it was there was a lot more into it than what you're saying, but the end result is spectacular at how fast it's working. It's like wow.
Yeah, no, it's definitely.
Okay, I'm not sharing my screen anymore, am I? I turned that off.
Nope.
How long has it been now? 6 months or what is it? I lost count.
Yeah, I know, 6-7 months. It's been a long ass time.
It was supposed to be 14 days though. 14 days to slow the spread.
Fuck's sake.
14 days.
Yeah.
If we
The
all
thing
pull
is,
together, we all wear masks for 14 days, we all stay locked in the house for 14 days, then we'll get over this, flatten the curve, life will be good, we'll go back to normal. Everyone complied, and this is what happens. So next time when we tell people, don't give them an inch, they'll take a mile.
They'll take a mile.
There's a reason for
Yep.
saying that. It's certainly not just to scare people. Because now this will, who knows
Well,
if
the
it'll
thing
ever
is-
end. I mean, I don't know.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
I was just agreeing with you about how it would be planned, because in order for them to do these types of things, I don't know why consumers are so naive and they think that these decisions to like tank the entire economy or tell everybody to stay home as if they're just decisions made on a whim or in the spur of the moment. But that's impossible because they have entire departments dedicated to this. They have think tanks dedicated to this. The White House staff is massive. They have probably 1 million people they employ. So they have entire people devoted to the economic impact of things, the
Right.
consequences of all these decisions.
Event
And there's just
201.
no way that they make these decisions on a whim. That's why coronavirus is the type of thing that they would plan 10, 20, 30 years out, maybe more.
Exactly. And not only that, they're continuing with it. I mean, you can tell that it's not going to let up anytime soon. You're starting to see commercials and television shows where wearing masks is the normal on
Right.
it. It's like, you got to be kidding me.
Yeah, I
They
saw-
wouldn't be doing that if this was just a temporary thing.
No, and people would recognize that that's the last thing you want to glorify. That's the last thing you want to show is, okay, now AT&T has people in their commercials that are wearing masks. It's just stupid. Why would you ever want that?
Yeah, or Domino's Pizza.
Right.
It's like, give me a break.
No,
it makes me furious, honestly. I see that Domino's commercial and it just pisses me off.
Yeah,
like,
it infuriates me as well. It's so bad, and people are just. And now, like I said, they're building these signs. They're not just temporary signs; these are like permanent signs up telling people, "Beware of coronavirus. Make sure you're wearing a mask." The sign I showed yesterday says, "Don't look when you pass other people. Look the opposite way." And these aren't signs, like I said, these aren't like some paper sign or some plastic sign that's going to be up there for a few months. These are like permanent signs that are going up in public places like subways and metro places, because this is what they're going to call the new normal. So this is definitely by plan. It's definitely a rollout, which is frightening to say the least.
Yeah.
Well, I had a friend who was telling me basically that this has kind of made life simpler, not easier, but simpler in the way that a line has been drawn in the sand. It's very clear now who the sheep are and who the blind followers are. They've made our job simpler to identify that. And basically, if they're arresting people for having weddings, they're arresting people for having funerals. I mean, if people don't get it at that point, then that's like more obvious than a cop sitting on a guy's neck for 10 minutes.
Right.
While
it
people
is.
beg for his life. So it's so painfully obvious that if people don't get it at this point, it's because they're consenting to it. They're
Right.
agreeing to it. They're part of it.
And that's why when you look at the
Wittingly or
percentage of people that are okay with everything going on, you just do those people even deserve liberty? which is something that you would want to say all the time before. You'd want to used to say everybody deserves liberty, everybody. But there's people out there who don't respect it, don't care about it. In fact, they think it's some sort of virus. They think it's some sort of bad choice of words there. They think it's some sort of thing that needs to be steered clear from. I mean, it's now a derogatory term, just like before. When you hear these cops talking, what are you, some sort of constitutionalist? Now, what is wearing a mask taking away your liberties? I mean, this is a joke now. There's people out there who just think that the government telling you to do something is the definition of liberty, is you have the liberty to do as your government tells you. You have, it's just ridiculous. I don't know how else to put it.
Yeah.
Double think.
So yeah, that's why I wanted to share these things, because I know that you guys talk about problems all the time, and of course Corona and stuff like that, and it's a big deal. I totally understand, but man, at this point, if you want to find something that for them, I mean, like the making dancing illegal. I mean, it's just so pathetic.
Right.
It's so ridiculous to the point where why are we not doing anything about it? And people should start taking action steps. Of course, there's different types of action steps. Obviously, some are much more active. Some are even violent, like people if they're violently revolting or something like that. And I don't know, maybe
it's actually worse. It's worse than people not doing anything about it. They're actually supporting it. They're fighting for it.
Right.
That's the crazy thing. It's like,
well, the thing about it is,
those of us that are resisting,
there's not even
they're fighting us.
There's not even government officials. If you think about it, everybody's wearing a mask, right? But nobody here or anywhere has seen a police officer or some sort of authority figure enforce a mask. So all the enforcement comes from citizens. So they've gotten the public to the point where we don't even need police officers to enforce these government directives anymore, or these government ideas.
In Spain, it's a little different. In Spain, there was some 3-4 cases that people filmed from the windows of their home with, for example, 2 officers, one a woman and another a man, not arresting a young woman because she didn't have a mask, and they arrested with force and put inside the car and take it away.
Yeah, but she probably was released the next hour. So what I'm saying is they can't enforce it on everybody. So it's very easy to go out and do one thing and have it filmed and everybody sees it and they put it on the news and everybody sees it and look how terrible this is. But it's another thing, whereas if everybody didn't wear masks, it's just like I showed everybody. I went to Monterey this weekend and there's a sign on the street that says, no mask equals $100 minimum fine. And I said, oh, this is great. I was willing to I said, I want to see the $100 fine. It's just to be great. I didn't have a mask anyway. So it's like, I'm not going to wear a mask but the percentages of people with masks versus without was 80%, 20%. And right away when I saw that, I said, oh, there's nobody going to be enforcing this, because you can't enforce it on 20. When you see downtown Monterey, California, or, by the beach there, where there's hundreds of people, well, they don't have enough police to enforce 80%, 20%. There's just not enough physical people to do it. So you just knew right away, they're not enforcing this. But if it was 99% masks, 1% not masks, then I could see it being enforced, because you have so
the problem, Darren, is that with so many people out of work, there's lots of people they can hire now that they can.
Jeez, it's like the contact.
Make go out there. I know it's scary, isn't it? Right? They may go out there and enforce it. So in other words, they're just going to increase the military side of it, or the the police state. It's scary. It really is.
That's why I think people need to fight back now. That's why people need to be, against these things now, because the more and more that you let it go, and the fewer and fewer there are people revolting or standing up against it, then the easier it will be for them to police it in some way eventually. Exactly. But we may be. Are we too far past that point? I certainly hope not. But like I said, there's just not a lot of people doing it. Luckily, in Monterey, there was a lot of people riding bikes, walking, jogging with their dogs. A lot of people who just, and it was good because it wasn't like they were wearing masks around their neck. It was people who just didn't have the mask on. So that makes me at least a little happy. But then again, like I said, there was some lady, I was coming down the stairs with my wife and I, and she had a mask on and stopped in her tracks. And I was like, what's wrong with this lady? Go ahead. And she's like, I'm not going to walk by you guys. You're not wearing masks. And it's just, you just start to realize how they've turned this world upside down, where as before, it should be us, healthy individuals, steering clear of somebody with a mask because they may be sick in some way. But now it's the opposite. The picture of health is the person with the mask. That's the epitome of health and selflessness, whereas my wife and I are to be steered clear of because we're healthy. And
the funny thing is they don't.
Sorry, I'm on my phone, so I have a little delay. I was gonna make a comment on the new job market. Right here, Louise is on some lists for students, like an agency that gives odd jobs or jobs that come up. And she saw in the list that they were recruiting just students to take blood from people for corona tests. So people with no qualification whatsoever, people who might be doing any job. So who knows? Is what Bob was saying, right? There's all this money being pumped in for people to help with the effort of whatever they're doing.
I had a friend whose mother was turned down for heart surgery because of corona. I was so pissed, I almost blew a nerve. I was like, or a vein on my neck. I was like, oh my God. I was so angry. Just even hearing it. The level of corruption is so bad now that I'm at the point where I would rather do heart surgery on myself than go to one of these godforsaken places. They've stolen everything from people, and it's at the point where I don't want to give them energy or attention or watch the news or give them any part of my time. And I think what the world needs is some sort of positivity, because in the world's darkest hour, the army of light shines brightest.
But how is that going to come? I mean, if you watch the news right now, you know what the answer to the corona is? You know what the answer to all these problems will be?
Vaccine.
Well, but even more than that, Joe Biden. Joe Biden he will save you. He will save you. Him and Kamala will be the answer. They will give you all the free stuff you ever wanted, and the country will go back to normal. It's so funny to hear him talk. They blame Trump for all the deaths due to coronavirus. It's so funny how backwards they have everything. It's his fault. Yeah, his fault. The coronavirus.
Well, that is their master formula, and it has served them well.
Yeah.
Turn everything inside out, upside down, backwards. That is the satanic way, and it works. Let's face it.
Yeah.
You know what's so bizarre is that consumers don't even consider the possibility of a lie ever. No matter what the subject is, they don't consider, because if you really want to be selfless, right? Well, isn't the selfless thing to do to make sure that what you're being told is true? If you really love or care about people around you, you want to make sure that you're not the carrier of false information.
Well, but that's what people aren't just looking for selfless things to do. They're looking for the easiest thing. That's what people, I forgot who told me a long time ago, but they said, you want to make money in this world, do something that makes people's lives lazier, makes them lazier. And at first I never really understood what they're talking about, but then when you look at it and you see things like DoorDash and the things that come out where we'll deliver fast food to your home, these are the things that make money. Is you just need to make people's lives, make it easier for them to be lazier and lazier and lazier. And believing what you're told, believing what the news tells you is the easiest thing that there is. And you want to look important in the world, you want to seem, put a mask on. It's very easy for people to do. And wear a Black Lives Matter shirt. Very easy for people to do. And that's all they have to do. Believe the news, do those things, and you're accepted in society, and you are, quote-unquote, woke now. I can't believe they stole that. I was telling everybody yesterday I have to take the bumper sticker off my car that says woke because now they've stole that too. Sickening.
Yeah, that's pathetic.
Wokeness is how... All right, well, I appreciate everybody. I don't think anybody else have anything else they want to present or talk about.
They're basically, he's like, no virus. They're saying
well, I don't.
Any coincidental thing with the reality, just.
Yeah, this kind of goes right along. I don't know if you guys have seen Amanda Vollmer's new video that she just released yesterday, but basically what they found out is that the gene sequence that they're looking for in the coronavirus is part of a normal human genome sequence, right? So in other words, everybody, 100% of everybody's going to test positive, with this because it's a normal part of it. Did you guys see that at all by any chance?
No, I haven't seen
I
it.
heard we talk about
No.
something similar before because of the spectrum, the idea that it was tuning for a spectrum that they were talking about, Amanda and others, I think Steve.
Yeah, they're looking for a specific sequence, which every human has, which is unbelievable. And they've busted this dead to rights. You guys have got to see this. It's unbelievable.
Actually, wasn't the creator of the PCR technique or some like Nobel Prize type person, even didn't they say that can't be used for corona?
Yes, exactly.
Because if it's like a replication technique, right? So all they have to do is do it enough times to get the result that they want.
Right. And it's just magnified more and more. But absolutely. I think everybody has at some point, like Bob said, I mean, at some point you're going to have what they're looking for in you. May not all at the same time. Maybe that's why they're able to come up with some negative results. But, it's not detecting COVID-19. It's
the
directing
bombshell
coronavirus.
evidence that COVID RNA base pairs. This one, right?
Yeah, that video.
Well, it makes even less sense because they're saying that viruses are basically invisible, So how do you know then what the causal agent is? If somebody's sick, how do you know if it's a bacteria or if it's a poison or this alleged virus, quote unquote? You know what I mean? Because it's so small, you'd need an electron microscope to see it. But then there's only like a handful of labs in the world that can do that. So how would they even, you know what I mean? How would they even verify how a virus works or how it?
Well, no labs ever pulled it out and singled it out, separated it.
I just dropped it in both chats, so everybody check this video out. It's called Bombshell Evidence. Bombshell evidence that COVID RNA base pairs are identical to chromosome 8 in human DNA. This is something that is absolutely mind-blowing that they've pulled this off.
Wow. I have not seen this yet. I'll have to check it out.
Yes, must watch. Everybody in the audience, you must check this out. Spread it around, get it out to everybody because they will shut this down.
I just dropped it in the D-Live chat as well for anybody looking for it there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you think they will shut this down, Bob, or do you think this has the potential to bring them down?
I think that's why they'll shut it down, is it has the potential to bring them down. I mean, this is a dead to rights bust, Rodrigo. This is say goodnight. This puts it away. It's that devastating.
And it's coming from doctors and...
Yes, but our own Amanda Vollmer is the one that's presenting it, and it's devastating. Absolutely unreal.
Wow. That's why I don't think that PCR test should be used anyway.
Nope.
But we are not the almighty medical profession.
Yep.
Only they are allowed to cure things and tell you what's going on.
Exactly. They're going to take every advantage they can, ethical or not. They don't care. They are, guys, they're in this for all the marbles. This is end game. They are not jacking around, and they are deadly serious about this, and we have to be every bit as serious about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's why it's like getting off grid, arming yourself, being completely just self-sufficient and looking at them as predators, essentially. Like if you think of it from a term of nature, well, an animal, it's like, think about how animals run away from humans. Maybe there's a reason, They see us and they know that we're these apex predators. And so then why don't we treat each other the same? And not each other like the people that we love and care about, but obviously the weird strangers that we see on the news. And why don't we treat them the same as if that they're like some sort of predator? And, the people who we know are good, because you can see it in their heart by how they behave.
Right. Yeah. Well, Triple R, I really appreciate you being on the show and bringing this stuff. And if you ever get another group of things you want to show, you're welcome to come on anytime.
Yeah, for sure. There's there was a few more things in my notes, but it was just at some point you guys should cover Stan Meyer, the guy who did the water-powered car. Did you ever talk about him or no?
Yeah,
the guy who ended up disappearing.
The carburetor.
The one from Ohio who did a water-powered.
He was poisoned, right?
Drove around the country.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a lot of people who've done stuff like that. I didn't cover it though because hydrogen powers. It's good, but some of the better technologies have been lost.
We did cover Joseph Newman and his machine, which was remarkable. On Globebusters.
Stan Meyer was along the lines of, he was like Tesla level. This guy was pretty brilliant. But I think for cars and stuff, I think the best is biodiesel because it's the easiest transition. Because it's very hard for the government to make that illegal because it's very easy to convert a diesel car over to biodiesel. Like people who've converted their cars to run off French fry grease and stuff like that, they just get from fast food restaurants that they're just throwing it out. So yeah, stuff like that's kind of cool. And then I had like in my notes as well, electric cars and stuff because that technology is getting really good now, especially some of the stuff you can find overseas and import. Although I don't know how easy it is to register a car like that, which is why I was saying diesel is the kind of like the life hack. That's the way to get in to the system. But other than that, yeah, I have some other stuff on the spreadsheet, which I'll share with you after the show. I'm not quite ready to make such that research public yet because I'm not finished with it.
Okay.
So it's just sort of a work in progress. But I'll be finished with it soon, eventually, when I have the time. And maybe I'll show you guys later when it's done. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that maybe it's somebody else. Is Stan Meyer the one that you're talking about that got poisoned at a restaurant or something?
Yes, I heard that urban story. I don't know if it's true, but something happened to the guy, of course.
Yeah, he like ran out of a restaurant or something.
Yeah,
and said they poisoned me and he died. Or
maybe
something.
It doesn't have anything to do with this, but for example, yesterday the opposition in terms of the political party of Russia, the opposition of Putin, was get poisoned. For example, yesterday in a restaurant.
Right.
And no, sorry, in a plane.
In a plane.
In the morning in some hotel, and then in the plane must be landing, in emergency to getting into the hospital. But what I mean is there is an old technique. Jean Paul I, the Pope, is also been poisoned. I mean, it's one of the oldest and most effective techniques to kill, unusual people.
And I was going to ask you, what do you think about what's going on with Steve Bannon?
Well, Steve Bannon, at least from what I read, which was very, small articles, it's just something to do with the construction of the wall to separate the immigrations from Mexico. And it was something like they asked for money, and it was all a scam.
Right.
And some of it was involved a high-rank general from United States, and I don't know if maybe they want. For me, there is something strategy behind maybe of this
I think
thing.
Sure.
For example, the FBI official webpage yesterday published the Zion protocols. It's not related with Steve Bannon, but what I'm trying to the own Donald Trump, I don't know if 1 or 2 days ago was asked by QAnon, and now all media is talking about QAnon and Donald Trump support this type of conspiracy theories, and that is danger for democracy and blah blah blah. So I don't know, maybe they are just moving some of the pieces in the chess game, maybe it's something, because now Donald Trump is saying like the last time that I speak with Steve Bannon was like 3 years ago when he was working in my campaign, and I don't have anything to do with this guy, and he trying to wash the hands like we say here in Argentina. But I don't know exactly. I know the thing that he made about a fraud, economic fraud, but I don't know exactly what is behind yet. I don't have the time to investigate it.
Gotcha. All right, well, we're almost 4 hours, so we'll say our goodbyes again. Thank you, Triple R, for being here. And you don't have a site or anywhere, so can't really send people if they're interested. Just keep an eye on my channel. Maybe he'll come back and do another show.
I'll give you I'll give you access to a site or some research later, perhaps when I finish it. It's kind of like an end goal, but it probably won't be for a while. Maybe in another year or something, because I've got a lot of other projects I'm working on at the same time, and I also run the factory as well. Yeah, that's actually a side project, believe it or not.
Right. All right, and I guess we'll just go around, let everybody say their goodbyes and what's coming up. Bob, obviously we know what's coming up Sunday. Anything else going on?
Nope, not a whole lot. Just bear with me, like I said, until we get into the new house. I'm kind of limited on both bandwidth and computing power. I'll be operating from my laptop, which for the most part works pretty good, but I'm tethering off of my T-Mobile phone. So it could be a little sketchy, and we'll work that out for Sunday's show. And I think Jaron will probably wind up doing the main hosting on it, and I'll be doing the talking hosting part, but we'll work it out, and we'll see everybody on Sunday, where we will not be talking about coronavirus. There you go.
There you go. So look forward to that. It's good to get back to the flat Earth and the globe lie. So that'll be good. And Rodrigo, what's coming up for you?
Just working, finishing some papers now for my work on quality of life for the elders. Imagine now what's going on, but and Space Crack, that's proofread, and I'm just finishing that. I'm ready to talk about it anytime. There's a lot on it, and probably already have material for the next one. Probably going to focus on some film analysis that I've done in the past and try to get that on paper. So that's kind of my focus for the next little while. There's a lot of work on the side to keep things moving here in the house, and quite busy. But again, thank you so much for having me. Looking forward to Sunday and see what kind of punishment we get if the Rona is mentioned.
All right, sounds good. And then, Iru, what do you have coming up?
Well, I'm trying to get used to the new home here in Switzerland. So, not much. I need to, get in order the computer and the files that I bring from Argentina and keep working.
All right, sounds good. And yeah, we talk about it all the time. If you want to support the show, please do so. Patreon.com/jeranism for me. I'm working on my website and probably be doing that, especially when the baby comes. I'm going to take a little bit of time off, which I haven't done in 5 years, and fix Patreon, fix my website, get all that set up so that, all the TFR files are found there for patrons, and get it kind of cleaned up and easier for people to access the shows that I've been doing. So that's coming up. Patreon.com/Nur para Todos if you want to support Iru. Patreon.com/Globebusters if you want to support Bob and Globebusters. And Patreon.com/Anthropology if you want to support everything Rodrigo's doing. So that's very easy. If you want to mail me anything, you can do so at my P.O. Box 3044, Merced, California 95344. Anybody else? Anything? Final words?
No, thanks. It's an honor, Jaron. Thank you. You're a great friend, and you're also an inspiration to me as well. And if it wasn't for you, I wouldn't have known a lot of the stuff that I did about Flat Earth as well. When I was researching it, and you helped answer a lot of questions that I'm sure everybody had. So you just do great work, and it's always an honor to be on your show, and you're a great, great host.
Thanks. I love having you. So like I said, anytime. So that was Triple R, Research Royal Rife. Check out his documentary. It's on my channel, and I'll put a link to it in the show notes, as well as all the links that we talked about early on in the show.
They're also on the Globebusters channel too, by the way, both of them.
Sweet. Oh, they're also on Globebusters, so you guys can check those out. All right, it's been fun. We will talk to you on Sunday, 12 noon Pacific, Globebusters. Who are you going to call? And I remind you, do your own research, because when you do, you'll never again believe what you've been taught. Till next time, this has been Jeranism. Peace.
Peace.